Hello, everybody, and welcome to round number 5 of Season 6 here in Tier 1 of LRC, and we're here today in Qatar at the Lusail International Circuit. My name is Coolest, and I'm very happy to be joined in the commentary box once again by Alpha Max Nova.
Hello, everybody, my name is Alpha Max Nova 1, and we are ready here today for the qualifying in, I was going to say Bahrain, but I'm pretty sure it's not Bahrain, so welcome to Qatar, lads.
Indeed, and yeah, let me get the old graphics on. Also, my game sound is way too quiet. I will sort that out in a second. But yeah, don't need the tyres. Everybody's going to be on softs, obviously. We do have a sprint format race today, so that is going to make things a bit more interesting, just like we had back in Jeddah, if you can remember that a few weeks ago. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting today. It's a complete the polar opposite track to last week's race at Imola. So nice and wide, very fast, but the one similarity that they do have is track limits are going to be quite a big problem today, you'd imagine.
Yeah, that, and of course also the tyre wear. The real-life Qatar Grand Prix was also known for, scorching weather, but since people are driving in their, comfortable home, usually they don't have that kind of issue. But instead they have the same issue they had in real life, which is, of course, is the high tyre wear this track has. So it's gonna be interesting to see strategies in the main race. In the feature race, in the sprint race, I think we're gonna see probably either mediums tires on almost every car, and if someone is brave enough to go for the soft tires, it's gonna be, well, a brave choice to say the least. But we're gonna see how it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting mix. I mean, in the sprint race in real life, we did have a split of strategies, which ended up giving us quite a fun race, I have to say. I don't know if that's going to be the same thing here, considering it's a much shorter distance, obviously. But then we do still have the full 50% race after that, which is going to be very interesting to see how people can cope with the heat and the tyre wear and all of those good things, and see if they can still put on a good race whilst doing it. So we have Loris. He's going to be the first one to start a lap here, so we will ride on board with him. Finished P4 after the stewards' decisions were applied from last race, so let's see what he can do. If he can keep things a little bit cleaner this time around. There was a few mistakes in the previous race for him, and penalties were one of them, so we'll see what he can do here. But as we ride on board into turn 2, keeping everything nice and tidy so far, well within track limits, and still looks to be a nice and clean first sector, heading towards turn 4 and 5 now. This very tricky little complex. You have to open out the steering momentarily and then get it straight back into 5, but Loris does it very nicely. Taking a bit of curb into turn 6 here, nails the apex, gets the power down nice and smoothly. His purple sector seems to have been beaten by the car behind him, which I think is Davey in the Mercedes. Indeed it will be. And now heading towards turn 9 here, flat out through the right-hander, get on the brakes as early as you can, I suppose, for turn 10, because you don't want to run out too wide, like Loris does, and invalidates his lap. So the first has fallen here in Qatar.
And it's going to be the first of many people here to go really wide and get an invalidation on the lap. Also, I was thinking, that this track, we're going to probably see it quite soon in real life, because the MotoGP season starts in Qatar, if I remember correctly. So,
indeed.
So it's going to be quite interesting to see all the, let's say, two-wheel drive cars go around here, even though they are not really cars by definition.
Well, we do have,
yeah.
we have the 4-wheel cars a week later, because the WEC start their season as well. Actually, I think it's a week earlier, my bad. But yeah, anyway, Davey, he goes quickest with a benchmark time of a 122.1, which is instantly eclipsed by Hashima, who sets a 120.9, so first driver into the 120s. That's a solid time from him. The driver who finished, I believe, P8 last race after the stewards' decisions will have been applied. And yeah, everybody just finishing their first laps now as Binmeister sets the time here with a 120.6. So yeah, first time's coming in, and obviously it is going to be all changed by the end of the session. We do have Afari back for today, alongside P2 finisher it was last week, because a penalty for Levente Kiss. Our P2 finisher now goes P1 with a 119.8, so Elias looking predictably rapid here today.
And we're just tipping below the 20s in the lap times, but we gotta also wonder if there's gonna be quite a lot of track evolution in this track. Mainly, I know in the Formula 1 games there is a little bit of track evolution during qualifying, so usually later runs are a little bit faster. But we gotta wonder how much is this track gonna improve, if we're gonna see 118 maybe later on in the session, or the limit is in the 19s. So we'll be finding out very soon, while meanwhile we can see the Haas of Levante Case 27 going to the 20.2 and in second place.
Yeah, it's a solid lap from him. So not too far off Lamoyes then, that's good to see. Don't want anybody to be running away with things. But yeah, Lavente, who was P3 last race, is going to be P2 as things stand. No Nardo today, the Mercedes driver who made a very strong impression on his debut despite crashing out in the race. He's unfortunately not going to be able to make it to this one. And yeah, that leaves Davey as the sole Mercedes, who's currently down in P7 back in the pits. And yeah, we're into a bit of a more calm period in the session because I suspect quite a lot of drivers are trying to save a set of tyres here.
Yeah, that would make sense. Also, I have to ask, are they actually, usually last season we had like to stop the whole lobby when we finished the sprint race to go from the sprint race to the main race. So I have to ask if we're gonna do the same thing here, or we're gonna like go straight from sprint to the main race after everything is done by staying in the same lobby. And the main reason I'm asking that is because, you know, if they're saving tires, wouldn't that makes a lot of sense if they're gonna change lobby and probably get the tire resetted when they get there? But I don't really know if that's how it works here or not.
Yeah, so we have had a change of system since the last time you'd have seen a sprint race last season. It is going to be, we will be staying in the lobby this time, which is good to see for all of us, for all of you watching, I'm sure. So yeah, we'll stay in the lobby between the sessions, and that means the tyre availability is very important for the drivers here. We have Yokata starting the lap now, I believe, making his way through turn 3. And yeah, I'll ride on board with a Haas driver who's had a fairly okay return to LRC so far. And he's back again, looking fairly quick as standard. Into the middle sector he goes. He's purple, in fact, in Sector 1, but obviously that is with a massive asterisk that the game does always like to lie about the purple sector, so we can't take that one. Well, we have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, but it does look like a good lap so far from the Haas driver as he heads now down into turn 10. Can he keep it on the track unlike Loris? Yes, he can. Quite conservative there, which, yeah, there's a lot of time to be made here by taking risks and running right up to the track limits, but equally there are a lot of laps to be lost, so it's trying to strike a balance is a lot of the challenge. And now through turn 14, very fast corner, and even faster into turn 15, you'll see a lot of people invalidate there most likely, but not Yokata. He's taking things nice and easy on his first lap, still quick though, and through turn 16 it's going to round off a pretty solid lap, but let's see how quick it is. It's a long gold run to the line here, the timing building at the end of the pit lane, and he goes P5.
Yeah, but I think he lost a little bit of time in the last sector, even though I'm not sure, because as you said, the sector used to lie here in Formula 1 games, so he says purple sector 1, purple sector 2, and then sector 3 apparently wasn't purple, so we can just wonder that's the place where he lost most of the time, but we don't really know just yet. And right now we are watching also MaxCon, which I think is on a push lap right now, and also we can see Malp going, I think, out.
MaxCon's back.
No, actually I think it's recharging, so it's not.
Yeah, and we do have people starting to build back up to their laps here, so yeah, it's a very solid time that from Lamoyes. It's quicker than anyone on my friends list has gone in time trial, so he's clearly looking mighty quick here. He did say he was very confident. It's a bit of a second home race for him. Of course, Qatar quite close to Bahrain geographically. There's now Tamer. Totally missed that one. I thought he was on an outlap. Never mind. He's gone P2, so he is right onto Elias's time. So I take that back. It perhaps wasn't the greatest lap, or either that or there's some track evolution. But yeah, we are going to be having a fight by the looks of things. Tamer, second quickest by 0.004 of a second.
And this is getting quite interesting, because we got two drivers in the 19s, and we also got to wonder if someone else is gonna reach that, let's say, threshold for the pole position contention. So we're gonna see quite soon, because Loris right now finishes a lap in at 120.8, so P5 for him. And there are still Afari and Bimpo who are still not setting up a lap time, but I'm wondering if they're actually saving the tires for the main race, as you said before.
Traffic, lots of traffic here for Hashima. He's got 4 cars to get through there. There's some of them were getting a little bit in the way, so perhaps, I didn't see who it was, but perhaps there might be a bit of strife with the stewards. But yeah, Hashima has made it through fairly cleanly, doesn't seem to have been compromised too much, so we'll see how that affects his time at the end of the lap. Of course, he won't be too pleased with that, but still, he's running fairly okay in qualifying as things stand, not too far behind Loris in P6, but like you rightly pointed out, Afari and Bimpo, two usually very fast drivers, are yet to set their times and are clearly going to be saving a compound of tyres for either the sprint race or for even the feature race, so we'll keep an eye on that and see how the strategy plays out for them. But in the meantime, we have Hashima. He is going to stay out and finish this lap. And so we will assume then that means he's going to improve. You can see him running out of battery as he heads towards the line here. What can the Ferrari driver do? Is he able to go quicker than P6? Indeed he is, and only by 1 position, but still beats Loris and gets himself into the top 5 once again.
Now, 7 minutes left to go, and we still have one important question to ask either here in the commentator booth, but also in the Twitch chat, which is, of course, how many safety cars are we going to see here, both in the sprint race and in the main race, probably.
Yeah, it's the the question of the race, I suppose, or of both races, because that does tend to be what decides the outcome. It certainly did last time around in Imola, and yeah, we had the epic battle towards the end of the race that ended up with Tamet coming away with his first victory of the season, and this man right here, unfortunately, losing it in the late stages of the race and only ended up with a P3, so I think he'll be looking to get some revenge, while the Hungarian driver, who goes a bit deep into turn 6 there, you can get away with that, because it does usually mean that you get a bit of a better exit. So into turn 8 he goes now, straddling the curb on the outside, just about keeping within track limits. Traffic gets out of the way there, so into turn 10 unscathed, keeping it within the track limits, and it does seem to be a pretty solid lap from Levente here. Heading towards now the fastest corners on the track, flat out 3 right-handers in a row, through 12, now 13, but the tricky one is the last one, turn 14 here, but with all of the aero that these guys will be running, it's a piece of cake really with these cars. 15 isn't though, right up to the track limits on the exit, just about keeping it within them though, so Levente is going to make his way through, out of the final corner, if he can keep it tidy, which he does, to complete this lap. Heading towards the line now. Is he going to be able to improve it? He needs 4 tenths to gain a position. Can he find that? No, he cannot.
Just about though, because it was at 0.070 deficit from his previous lap. So very close to improving, but still very also close to his last lap time. So I wouldn't really be too disappointed with that, because he just ran with the same pace he had in the last qualifying lap.
And I think we have Welbs here, or Bacon Boys, on a lap as well, as Afari has disconnected, so I'm going to hope that he doesn't get the retirement glitch. It doesn't seem like he has, so keep our fingers crossed on that one, and never mind, Bimpo is back into the pits, and I think Malb is going to be the only driver who's actually on a lap at the moment. Seems to be just starting one. He did seem quite low on battery though, but no, never mind, that was... I must have misseen that. Is looking fine, but not looking fine through turn 2. Gets a massive snap of oversteer. Somehow it doesn't actually invalidate the lap though, despite going clearly all 4 wheels off the track. So he may just continue with this one. Seems to be doing exactly that. So yeah, Malp, obviously he's not really set a representative time yet in this session, so might be useful for him to get a banker lap in, but obviously with only, what, 4 minutes, 5 minutes-ish left in the session now, he might not be able to get himself back into the pits if he does finish this lap. So yeah, we'll see what the strategy is from the Williams driver here, who is only reserved
under
today.
one point of view, you could also argue that it's probably not worth to complete a lap or even just out at the back of the grid, because with as many safety cars we've seen so far in this Tier 1 season and so on, usually the qualifying position doesn't matter too much. I mean, it matters something, but considering there is also a sprint race, you still got time to recover positions and maybe make up time. So I think it would be good to have a representative time, but of course it's not that important on that point of view. Points are made in Sunday, as they used to say.
Yeah, well, or on Saturday in this case, since we do have a sprint race,
yeah,
or on Friday, since we're actually racing on Friday. Either way, Malp goes P9 with a 126.2, so it wasn't the... Sorry, I said that completely wrong. 121.6. Yeah, it wasn't the best lap, but not the worst either, so he's able to get himself at least a fairly representative time on the boards as he comes up right in front of the Red Bull. And one thing I did miss was Bimpo actually finishing his first lap in qualifying and goes P3, so solid stuff from the Aston driver.
Yeah, and now the only person we have that still hasn't set a lap time is Afari, which I think is still in the pit lane. So we're gonna just wait and see if he can actually go for it and maybe set a representative lap time, or he's gonna have to start from the back of the grid in the sprint race.
Yeah, hopefully that won't be the case for him. I did see he has just rejoined the session, so he is going to get the chance to set a lap, and he's going to have to make it count under pressure, because obviously if he invalidates that lap, it won't be looking good for him, as meanwhile we have Lelin on a lap of his own here. Heading towards turn 6, it was a bit scrappy through turns 4 and 5, seemed to get quite a bit of understeer there, and once again through 6, so perhaps running a little bit lower downforce than the rest of the guys. That will help him in the race, but obviously not in qualifying here, so we'll see how he's able to cope with that. Heading through the heart of the middle sector now, and in towards turn 10. Can he keep it within track limits? It's going to run out wide, but yeah, nice and tidy. And the Alpine driver, who is one of the 2 reserves here today, my math is correct, yeah, one of the 2 reserves, going to make his way into turn 13 and into 14 now. Just maxing out on the rev limiter there, has actually shifted down to 6th gear, which is not something I would expect to see. He's getting a little bit slow and in fact does decide to back off before going for presumably another run here, although with not much battery remaining, so perhaps going into the pits might have been a better call for Levin there.
Yeah, I mean, considering around 2 minutes left, and not a lot of time to maybe go to this pit lane and change tires and everything, I think that's gonna be it for him. Also because, having 2 laps one right after the other in qualifying with the soft tires here in Qatar, it's not really worth it due to the high tires. So we're gonna probably have to see maybe other people going for a lap, which of course means not the Mercedes, since it's, not going for a lap right now, but maybe it's gonna start it right now. And we have other people, surely.
It was Yokata he was letting through there. He's going to make his way to the line. I think just finishing his lap now. You can see the light flashing. And he's able to improve up to P6. So a good lap by him, just a bit behind Binmeister there. Our Shadow, who's also set a 120.6. And we have our current pole sitter on his final lap of qualifying now. By the looks of things, Elias is nice and tidy on the traction there, out of turn 6. Heading towards turn 7, goes past Afari, who's has managed to get himself onto the track for a attempt at a lap here in the dying stages of qualifying. Into turn 10 now, a little bit wide though is Elias. That's not the perfect line for him. He's going to lose a bit of time to that, I'd imagine. As he heads now up towards turn number 12. Very fast right-hander, flat out even. He's still up on his time actually, so track evolution might be quite strong around here. Through 14, keeps it flat to the floor as you'd expect. Into 15, this is your commitment test here, and he runs right up to the exit, sliding a little bit on his way through, so full send from the Ferrari driver. Into the final corner he goes now, puts the power down right up to track limits once again. Like I say, that's how you've got to try and extract the time here. Heading towards the line. Can he raise the bar any higher? Yes, he can, but not by too much. It's only a 1:19.7, and a lot of drivers still left to set their times.
I mean, if I have to say, a 1:19.7 is still a great lap, especially for a provisional pole position. And I don't expect much other people to go faster, because right now we can see Tamer and Bippo, which are the main competitors for the pole position, are on their out lap and not start. Oh, actually, wait, they are starting their flying lap, so maybe they could. But it's going to be very, very difficult. So Bimpo is the first one to start his flying lap, and now behind him there's also Tamer. So we're going to see if any of them can actually beat the pole position lap of Romao. Yes, now that the checkered flag falls.
Yeah, no more time left to start a lap now, so these are everybody's final laps, and I am actually going to switch to Afari, who is much further around the lap on his one and only chance here. Oh, it's not that much further around the lap, but he is, on his final lap of qualifying, his first lap as well. So it's full pressure on the McLaren driver to perform in these circumstances. He just needs a solid banker time. As Yokata retires in the pit lane, he's going to start P7 at best. But Afari swings it into turn 9 here. And now into turn 10, going to have to try and stay within track limits, obviously. That is the main challenge, which he succeeds at. Turn 10, one of the hardest corners to do that. So the most of the obstacles out of the way now, but it's not over just yet. Through the triple right-hander he goes. Into 14, got to keep it tidy through here, right up to the curb on the inside, so he's not taking it too cautious on his only lap in qualifying here. Is Afari. Keeps it within the track limits once again through 15. One corner separates him from the checkered flag, and a long old run to the line as well. It's been a nice and tidy lap by the Bahraini driver, so what can he do? Can he even usurp his fellow countrymen as he runs to the line? It is P3 for Afari, not quite close enough. What can Bimpo do? He stays P4, not able to improve. And Tamer does improve though, and he goes pole position, so last week's race winner is able to usurp Elias and takes P1 at the death of qualifying.
And with that, the stage is set for one exciting race here in Qatar. Stay tuned to see the sprint race, and of course later on the main race, which is of course a 50% length distance. Yeah,
it's going to be very exciting by the looks of things here. Tamer and Elias Olamano both just matched on pace effectively, so it seems like it's going to be a good old fight between those two, and then Afari and Bimpo as well, the two drivers who have saved a set of soft tyres. right up in behind them as well. So we'll see how that pans out, and Levante Kiss right there too. Shadow, Binmeister also improved towards the end of the session, so the field spread seems to be very tight, especially once you look past the first two drivers here. So I think we do have, like you say, a very entertaining race ahead of us. It's then, for the rest of the order, Loris P7, Hashima P8, Yokata P9, Malb P10 reserving for Williams today. Maxcon P11 might be a little disappointed with that, but he is not a big fan of this track, as he has said. Leland P12 with not a perfect lap for him, Davey or Bacon Boys, who round off the back of the grid in P13 and 14. So we're going to go to a very short break now, and then we will be back in a couple of minutes' time with the sprint race. Don't go anywhere. Alright, we are back and underway with the formation lap for the sprint race here, and first thing, the order of the day is to see what the tyres everybody is going to be on, and that is indeed a set of mediums for the entire field. So nobody taking any risks, and that does mean then that Afari and Bimpo must have been saving a set of tyres for the feature race then, so we'll have to keep that in mind. But yeah, nice and simple for this one, everybody on the same tyres, so it will be a race of raw pace to decide the starting order for the race.
So yeah, it's gonna be, as you said, no difference in tire, no difference in, well, I mean, I would like to say setup, but I'm pretty sure they have different setups probably on those cars, so it's gonna be mainly a skill battle to see who wins after 10 laps here in Qatar. Also, think about it, you know, we have a 50% race, sprint race, so technically we're gonna see a 75% weekend overall, in some kind of sense.
Certainly one way of viewing it, but yeah, I'll cycle back through the grid order again, just in case you forgot it in the 12-second long break. Yeah, so it's Tanner who, I have to say, surprised me a bit to take pole there at the end. He was looking quick, but yeah, actually beat Lamau, yes, which is not something too many people can do in qualifying, so good job by him. Puts himself in prime position for this sprint race here, but obviously we're still using the old format, and that will mean that the results of this race decide the starting grid for the feature race. Then it's, yeah, Afari in P3, Bimpo P4, Leventakis in P5. This is usually where we'd be running you through the strategy, but obviously there isn't any at the moment. I'm sure that will all change by the time we get to the actual race in about 20 minutes' time. It's Shadow 6th, Loris 7th, Hashima P8, which is where he finished last race, Yokata P9, Malb in P10, obviously reserving as well today, Maxcon P11, Low on the other reserve, P12, Davey P13, and Bacon Boys or Welbs rounding off the grid. So it's going to be interesting, and I would imagine quite a lot to keep an eye on at the start of the race here.
Yeah, just 10 laps to decide the starting position and probably get some points too, because if I remember correctly, the sprint race gives points for the championship, so indeed, we gotta expect people to go full aggression in those 10 laps, and you know, it's not more about thinking how this tire is gonna last or everything else. It's probably gonna be you know, fuck it, we ball mentality for the whole 10 laps. So
indeed.
So we're gonna just see, because now they're getting ready and the lights are about to go out, so up to you for the commentary of the race start.
So here we go, we've got 4 and 5 red lights for the sprint race here in Qatar, and we are away. Who's going to be quick off the line? It seems like a decent start for Elias, but no, he was slower in the second phase. Afari even has to back off, so he's going to be side by side with Bimpo heading into turn 1 here. Can they all keep it clean through the first corner? It seems like they can. Nice and wide, obviously. We've got 2x2 further down the field. That's Loris and Binmeister going side by side. It's not clean for long. There was a bit of contact between the two of them, but Shadow with a nice save there just about keeps it in the right direction as Maxcon getting his way up the field, and everybody trading places through the first sector here, but it seems like it's been all relatively clean so far, as now we've got 3 wide heading into turn 6 there. That's there's an Alfa Tauri, a Haas and a Ferrari, and the Haas of Yokata running off the track there for a moment. He's going to drop down. They're 3 wide again heading into turn 7. That's not going to work. Contact between Davey and Bacon Boys, but somehow they all keep it in the right direction, so a chaotic start here as we might have expected, but it is still Tamer who's held the lead from Lamau, yes, and Afari staying ahead of Bimpo in P4.
And surprisingly, no big crashes, no yellow flags, so still a straight up fight between everyone on track. And now we can see the Ferrari going round the inside, the Haas going round outside of Hashima for P11, so the battles are still going on. A little bit of cars going wide, I've seen right before that. But now let's concentrate on the lead battle, because Tamer, Lamau, yes, and the Ferrari are also very close and, you know, near 1 second to one each other. And also we can see pit lane getting open for Malpul, Jokata, Hashima, and everyone else going into it, so I think there's probably damage for them. Now, battle for the lead, we can see Tamer defending on the inside against the Ferrari, which is gonna try into the turn 2 to get into the inside, and let's see if he can actually get the pole position.
And
I
out
think
wide.
Williams goes a little bit wide, but the McLaren takes a little bit of a cheeky dive and a cheeky look, but can't get into the lead, and now the Ferrari can actually manage to go around outside and complete the maneuver to get into P1.
Very nice move there by Elias to get himself into the lead of the race. He had to fight for it. Tamer was obviously not going to give it up too easily because he knows that they're quite evenly matched on pace, and that's kept the entire field really up until Shadow and P7 all bunched right up behind them, and even Shadow and Loris are going to go side by side. Heading into turn 9 here, it's going to be a bit close between them. Shadow actually cuts the corner to avoid contact there, so perhaps having some good self-preservation by him, but yeah, don't want to do that too often. But yeah, very nice move by Lamau, yes, to take the lead, but it's not going to be lasting for too long because Tamer is all over the back of him. So if this is a taste of what we're going to be seeing tonight, it looks like we have a fantastic fight on our hands.
Yep, surely a fantastic fight, and we also got to see, because the DRS hasn't opened yet, but it's gonna open on the next lap, so as soon as they reach the start-finish line, they're gonna have this lap without DRS and then the next one with DRS available. But I gotta wonder if Tamer, just with the use of Slipstream, can actually go for an overtake. Right now, I don't know if it's using overtaking or not, I don't think it is, but it doesn't really need it because Slipstream is more than enough to go down the inside in turn 1. Oof. Let's see if the Ferrari can keep it around the outside just enough, and just into the second corner he can defend the position and keep P1 for this third lap.
So close between those guys though. Again, they almost made contact so many times already in this race, and Tamer actually checked up Afari a little bit there into turn 2. Now side by side once again, Loris and Shadow. This seems to be where the action's really at, down in P6 and 7, and it's Loris staying ahead. Shadow tried to make the re-overtake, but it's not worked so far, as you did see earlier on, everybody trading fastest laps there, because they're all just sat in this train together, and meanwhile, we have battles down into turn 1 as well, as now, I think we've had an accident, actually, that's for Binmeister. Oh, it's Shadow, done exactly what his name says again, and unfortunately, the race preservation hasn't done him too much good. He's luckily, because of the gap that I was about to talk about, a 35-second gap, he's still going to stay well within the top 10, but yeah, it's unfortunate for him. He's going to be out of the fight now, you'd imagine.
Oh, very wide from the Ferrari, and also, well, actually, I thought it was the battle for the lead, my bad. You know, Ferrari versus Williams for two different trains here, but the main one, the one we are actually looking for, is the main one, which is Tamer versus Lamau, yes, which is gonna turn into a real battle now that the DRS is open into lap 4. So let's see if Tamer, with the DRS open, going for the outside line actually, and let's see if he can actually complete the maneuver. Yes, he can before the braking zone. So Tamer goes into the lead. Now Beammaster also gets a 3-second penalty for track limits apparently. And we go into lap 4 with this current standing, seeing Tamer followed by Lamau, Yas, then Afari and Bimpo in the top 4.
Yeah, it's a very good fight here, and I think the DRS might have just made things a little bit more straightforward for these guys. They were side by side into turns 1 and 2 for 2 laps in a row before it, so that might just calm things down a little bit, unfortunately, but that does mean that the battle will be basically alive for as long as these guys are within DRS range, and meanwhile, the other Williams-Ferrari battle is getting very heated into turn 1 here. Pushed all the way to the inside was Hashima by Malb there, really fighting for the wooden spoon here. There's no points for P10 because it is only the sprint race, but right round the outside Malb will go, so these guys have clearly taken the reins from Lamau, Yes and Tamer, and into turn 4. Is the Williams going to keep it? Side by side, indeed he is. It's a brilliant race all the way through the field here. There's contact almost, I think it was actually just Hashima losing the back end, but saves it just about, and the battle is still not over, but a bit of oversteer is not going to be helping Hashima out at all here.
But let's see the battle for the lead, because they're getting up to the main straight, so the DRS straight, and the DRS gets open for the Ferrari, and let's see if Lamau, Yes, can actually complete the maneuver for P1 into lap 5. He goes down the inside, and I think it's going to be a slam dunk overtake. Yep, it is.
Yep. Just like it was for Tamer this time last lap, Elias is able to switch places, and I suspect these guys probably going to be switching places all the way to the checkered flag here, and everyone behind them has held position now. Things are starting to spread out just a little bit in this race, but yeah, it's been a fantastic one so far, and there's battle still all the way through the field, and penalties starting to be accrued as well.
I'm thinking it's just 5 laps and we're seeing penalty already. We can just wonder in the 50% race how many penalties are we gonna see. Right now, though, we got all kind of battles all around, and we can see the other Ferrari-Williams battle raging on into lap 5. So let's see if Ashima can try and do something. Williams goes defensive, Ashima goes around the outside. They are side by side through turn 1. Let's see if in turn 2 can actually complete the overtake. I think he can. The Ferrari goes ahead, and Williams concedes currently the position, but goes also a little bit wide for a little bit of an oversteer moment. And
yeah, only loses one place there, but that could have been a lot worse for Malb. It was an epic battle between those two. Like I say, it's not for any points, but yeah, fighting again, and unfortunately Malb with the oversteer this time around was quite a lot to handle, although that does slot him into now a 4-way battle for P11, 12, 13 and 14, so perhaps that one not over just yet. Likewise, the battle for the lead of the race is going to be changing hands once again. Here goes Tamer up the inside, and again, with the DRS, quite straightforward for these guys. It does seem to be a little bit too powerful, I have to say, and Tamer gets the move done nice and cleanly into the braking zone at turn 1 there, and going to be back into the lead. So I think it might be time to start running a little bit of mental maths here to figure out who is going to be in the lead on the final lap if things stay as they are.
So lap 6 we got Tamer in the lead, so we got to expect lap 7 to have Lamau Yes in the lead, then lap 8 once again Tamer, lap 9 Lamau Yes, and then lap 10, which is going to be the last lap, we're going to see, because probably we're gonna either watch and see if the DRS is so powerful enough to see an overtake before the finish line or after it. So that's gonna be the main answer, and I think it's not gonna be as straightforward as just counting by 2 every single lap.
And meanwhile, Malb actually made his move back up into P11 before the final corner, so it's a good job by him, and he was somehow able to stay ahead despite the DRS, so maybe run a little bit lower wings than the Haas of Yokata behind him. But yeah, that's obviously it's going to be there might be a bit of strategy coming into it, as we did actually see this from Tama in the previous race, where he tried to actually force himself to lose the position as now Shadow again. It's another spin for him, and luckily for him, once again, there's still a 24-second gap, so he's not going to lose any positions from that, but he is continuing to lose time, and unfortunately he just seems to be resigned to P9 at this point. But what I think is going to happen this time is Tama has clearly used a lot of battery to stay ahead. Is he going to be able to do that, though? Because here comes Elias, he's going to stay in behind, so it's going to be a mix of strategies here. I think Tama must have been trying very hard to break the DRS on that lap, because he'd gotten a lot further away than he had before, and he has indeed held the position this time.
I think at this point both drivers are probably doing the same map we are doing here in the commentary booth. So they're both thinking, yeah, if I lead now, then I'm not gonna lead in the last lap, or maybe if I don't lead now, I'm gonna lead in the last lap. And actually, Beam Master retires from the race. I think at the pit lane, yep, it does. So a clean, let's say, DNF from him. But now the battle for the lead still rages on, and also the battle for, well, not points really, but still in the back of the grid, and we can see the Haas going past through Malb into P10.
Yeah, that was Yokata. Nice and clean move with DRS once again, as we will see many times today. And actually, Yokata has to let Malb back through, because I think it was an overtake in the yellow flags from Shadow's retirement. So that's unfortunate for him, but yeah, either way, he gets back through, and now back up to the front of the field, getting incredibly close together into turn 15, and getting a bit out of shape as well with the Williams of Tama there as they head towards the final corner. So this battle is, as we've predicted, far from over just yet, and I have to say, if this is what we're going to be seeing in the race, then these guys are going to be on the edge of their seats for the entire time. But here we go, we've got Lamau up the inside once again, and with the DRS, he's going to be back ahead this time. So I think, as things stand, he's going to be ahead. If it continues like this, Lamau should be able to get back ahead onto the final lap of the race, unless Tama plays it smart and decides to wait and not go for the move this time around. So it's going to be a lot of strategy here between these two drivers, and it's anyone's game so far.
You know, there's one thing I've been guessing a little bit during both qualifying and this race too, which is this corner right here. It may not look like, but this corner is actually an heavy braking zone, so it can actually transform into an overtaking spot if someone wants hard enough. And, you know, right now people are using the DRS zone to try and do some overtakes, but during the last lap I think people may actually get desperate enough to try and overtake over there. And speaking of overtaking, we can see once again the Haas against the Williams into turn 1. And I think the Haas has just the legs on the Williams and can get into P10 for now, while the Williams goes a little bit wide behind him. Indeed, so yeah, we got to see into lap 10 if someone is going to try and do an overtaking maneuver into maybe a more unconventional place. But we're going to just see and wonder where we go into lap 9.
Yeah, I think the scrap might start to get a little bit heated on the final lap of the race, because what I would have to expect is that, well, if Tamer's done his mental math, then this time he shouldn't go for the move, and let's see, he has got the DRS open, but is he going to go for the pass? This might just decide the race, and there, he backs off.
He is not.
That's exactly what I predicted. He's going to back off. He knows exactly what he's doing here, and Elias, there's not much he can do about this one, so onto the final lap of the race, it is going to be exactly what I said. They're both playing the same mental maths that we've been doing in the commentary box, and it is going to be a fight for the lead. It's not even for the win of the feature race, this is just for the sprint race, so you can imagine how insane the race is going to be after this one, but yeah, for the feature race and for pole position, it is going to be a very tense fight here.
And I also gotta wonder if Yes is actually saving battery, because at this point he may know what Tamer is trying to do, and at this point you may actually want to just save battery to use it all on the last lap and defend yourself with that, so we're gonna just have and see in just half a lap time how it's gonna go. Meanwhile, the battle between Williams and Haas continues, and we can see Malb getting back into P10. And if the math is right, we're probably gonna see the Haas getting back through in the next lap.
Indeed, but the main focus now is up at the front of the field. How much gap has Elias been able to build? He has definitely built something. It's up to 0.6 of a second, and he's going to have to go full commitment through turns 15 and 16 here. See what he can do. He's not quite over the curves as much as he might have liked. Maybe just struggling with a bit of tyre wear here. So Tamer is going to be well within DRS range, but how much battery has he got? How much battery has the Ferrari got? Because that is going to decide perhaps who's going to win this race. You can see the green bar on the front of the steering wheel there. Tamer is going full pelt here, but will he be close enough into turn 1? He's not quite there, is he? He's going to send it, but no, there's no room, or is there? He's going to try and get back up the inside, almost level on pace through the corner, and meanwhile the fight's going on behind them because Levente Kiss has made 2 moves for the price of 1 and got himself up into P3 here. Meanwhile, Tamer, he's going to go for it into turn 4. It's exactly what we said. Not done just yet. We're going into the middle sector with the fight here. They're wheel to wheel as they head through. Sliding is the Williams once again, and this time Elias is able to do what you predicted he would do and get later on the brakes and up the inside. Meanwhile, Levente holds P3 from from Afari, who stays ahead of Bimpo, who's now down to P5, and actually making a bit of a mistake there. Loris all over the back of him, and meanwhile, as you said rightly, Yokata gets through and gets himself back into P10 ahead of Malb, but is there anything that Tamer can do now? Surely not. There's no way he'll be able to make the move into the final corner, so his last chance is to try and get the DRS on the run to the line, but I don't think either of them are going to have the battery left.
I mean, he's going to have to hope that maybe no one else has battery right now, but I think it's quite over right now, because 3 tenths actually, I think it's close a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to try and overtake in the line. So we're just gonna have and see. Hold your breath, lads, because this is the last straight. We're gonna see who's gonna win, but I think the Ferrari just got him. So Yes crosses the line and wins the sprint race.
Well, there's the photo finish.
Afari,
never mind. Afari was the one who does it. Afari gets himself P3 at the line, who's actually banging tyres, and we might not be done just yet, because here go Leland and Maxcon. Can the AlphaTauri get the move at the line as well? Not quite close enough. He goes spinning out and off into the gravel there. But yeah, it was very close between our top 2, but it is. Elias gets revenge for qualifying and gets himself P1 on the grid for the feature race now, and 8 points to go along with it, so very good job by him. Meanwhile, what about Malb and Yokata? May they have one more twist left in the tail. Sliding again as the Williams. He's going to have to try and follow that toe, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. You can see him gaining towards the line, but he's not going to be able to do it, although on penalties he will do it, and gets himself up into P9 by virtue of keeping things clean, and it will be then Davey and Bacon Boys who round off the grid in P12 and P13.
Well, that was an interesting sprint race. Sadly, no strategies or different tires involved, so for that, we're just gonna have them wait a little bit longer, because right now we're gonna go for the main race of the night, which is of course a 50% race here in Qatar.
And so with the new element added, there was not much of it here, but now we're gonna have tire wear galore in this feature race, so let's see what the strategy is going to look like. It's going to be a multifaceted battle from here on out, but yeah, let's see how the drivers are able to cope with that. But it will be Yes, who starts from pole position ahead of Tamer in 2nd place. Then Afari just about snatching P3 at the line. That must have been centimetres between them. It was that close, but he does indeed get the position ahead of Levente Kiss, who has to settle for P4. In his 3rd race for Haas. Then it's Bimpo P5, Loris in P6, with Leland having a great sprint race, getting himself 2 points in P7, again, just by keeping things clean, so really good job by him. Then Maxcom P8, Mal P9, Hashima P10, Yokata 11th, Davey 12th, Bacon Boys 13th, and Shadow retiring from the session P14. But that is going to be it for the sprint race, and now we're going to go to a short break before the feature race, where the action is going to get even more intense. We'll see you then. Alright, we are back and underway with the formation lap here for the feature race now. It's not too long of a break, obviously, but hopefully long enough for all of the drivers to decide their strategies, which is perhaps going to be what decides this race. So let's take a look. What is it going to be? And predictably, it's a big old mix. So Max, do you want to take us through it?
Well, we can see Lamo, yes, Afari and Levante Case and Bimpo, and also, of course, behind them, Ashma and Jokata. Yeah, mainly those are starting on the hard tires, so they're gonna go quite conservative in the first part of the race. And I think it's actually the most risky strategy to go for the hard tires, because you have to use those tires as long as possible. Also, the strategy for the game tells us that a one-stop is possible, which I kind of doubt it, but whatever. If they say it, I believe it. So hard tires is gonna be probably hard to softs, if what we're saying is right. Then the other probable strategy is medium to hard, or mediums maybe to soft, even though I think tire wear is going to be a little bit too high to try that. And then we got the driver starting on the soft tires, which are of course Malb and Bacon Balls, which of course are going to try and use those soft tires in the first few laps to gain positions, and then hope maybe either for a safety car to get their ass saved for the for the tire wear, or either going for the hard tires and go to the end with that, and maybe trying a big ass undercut strategy. That's hard to tell, of course, during the formation lap, but we'll find out quite soon how it's gonna pan out. So if I had to bet on someone, I'd bet on the medium tires, because it's the safe, let's say, strategy, because it's not gonna go too long, and of course it's not gonna go too low on the lap counter. But of course we never know. It's tier 1, everything is not really predictable, and we're gonna find out soon who had made the right call with the tires, and of course who's gonna be the winner after 20 laps here in the scorching heat of Qatar. Now up to you for the race start.
Thank you very much. And something I noticed there in the formation lap was Tamer really backing off there compared to Elias. So Elias, Lamarias might be struggling a little bit with some tyre temperatures here on the start, though I suspect once he gets halfway through the middle sector, that will be all changes. Now we have the AlphaTauri of MaxCon taking some evasive action to make his way into the grid slot, but yeah, everybody lining up now, and it is different tyre strategies for the drivers in P1 and P2, so things might be very interesting at the start here. So here we go. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we are go for the feature race here in Qatar. How's the start going to look this time around? It's going to be Tamer, who's going to be side by side. He's got the better tyres, and can he make use of them heading into the first corner? He's going to commit to it, and is he going to be able to make it stick up the inside? No, he can't quite do it. Is everyone able to make it through cleanly? We saw a car going off for a moment there. Afari trying to fend off from Levante to stay in P3 here, and he's not been able to do that. And meanwhile, side by side for P1, Tamer is not waiting around on those mediums. He's going to make them most of it and get himself back up into the lead of the race, which was stolen from him in the sprint. Meanwhile, Switch comes in from Afari for P4. You can see at the bottom of the picture, and Afari can't quite make it stick with the traction. Levante stays ahead on the hards, and Loris even having a look up the inside into turn 7 here. It's a very chaotic start of the race, but everyone just about has kept it cleanly so far.
And incredibly, no safety cars, no crashes in tier 1. You build it here first, but it's a clean race start for everyone, and we can see Tamer is now trying to use the medium tires to run away and break that 1 second barrier in the first 2 laps, because that's mainly what he has to do with those tires before they start to fade off, which is going to be quick very, very soon if we think how high the tire wear is right here. So right now, battle still all around the place, and we can see also a big train forming right behind from, I think, Bane Master to everyone else. And I don't know if that's due to maybe some contact or something else, but we got once again battles all around, and we can see Malb on the soft tires a little bit struggling through the last corner, and now, no, actually not under pressure from Lennon, it's more Lennon under pressure from other drivers, and we got people with damage, which of course are Beckhambolts and Davey, which are going into the pit lane. Meanwhile, into turn 1, we can see a little bit of battle between the Alfa Romeo and the McLaren, with the Alfa Romeo getting into, I think, P4. And yeah, quite a chaotic start.
There's a lot going on, a lot to keep track of, and I also saw for a second
Levante
was ghosted there and almost inside Elias, so I have no clue what was going on there. I'd assume just a bit of desync, but thankfully it's doesn't seem to have hindered either of the drivers, so we will soldier on. and it is still Tamer making his way through the middle sector now, and going very strong on the medium tyres, which is exactly what he needs to do. And he's broken the DRS range before we even get to lap 3, so he is looking quite good at the start of this race here, but obviously there are a multitude of outcomes that can still happen, and safety cars, of course, being the main threat to his strategy. I suppose a late safety car would be the main threat for him.
I mean, safety cars are one of the main threats for the strategies, but due to this track, I think one of the main concerns many of the drivers have are, of course, track limits, because here, having a penalty, and of course a 3 or maybe more seconds penalty, can really change your finishing position. So I'm expecting people to go a little bit conservative on the race pace, but you never know. We've seen people going all out, especially in the sprint race. So we're gonna see if maybe in the next lap we're gonna see penalties or not. Meanwhile, Lamau actually answered with the fastest lap compared to Tamer, and now that the DRS gets open, we're gonna see probably more battles like this one into turn 1.
Yeah, and Malb and Bimpo, I think, just made a bit of contact going down the straight there, as Malb on the soft tyres is rapid at the start of this race and trying to scythe through as many positions as he can. But yeah, you make a very good point. There is definitely a sacrifice to be made of how much risk do you want to take in terms of getting extra pace from running closer to the track limits, but also risking getting penalties and perhaps losing even more time in the process. So we'll see how the drivers cope with that. Obviously, good to see none in so far. Obviously, you don't want to be seeing any after the first 3 laps, but yeah, it's been an intense one, and now we've got, I think, a mistake from Lelin, losing traction a bit on the exit of turn 6, and that allows Hashima up the inside and into P9.
And that is also why I also prefer main races compared to the sprint races, because usually in sprint race you see everyone starting on the same tires and then not doing strategies or pit stop strategies. While in the main race we got different tires, different level of grips, and people going faster at some points, then slower and so on. So everything is a little bit more interesting, more chaotic, more energetic. And speaking of energetic, we got Spinmaster going a little bit too energetic into the track limits and getting a 3 seconds penalty right behind.
So that is the first of the day, and I suspect a long old day in terms of track limits penalties. There's going to be a lot more to come of those, and yeah, we'll see how everybody is able to fare. But here we go, we've got Shadow now, trying to make amends for what's just happened by going up the inside and getting into P10, as now, yeah, you're right, further up the field, we've got Malb making the move that he couldn't quite do this time last lap, and gets ahead of Bimpo into turn 2 there, and the Aston Martin driver has to decide that this is not the fight for him right now. Obviously, hards versus softs is a huge pace difference, so Malb able to get through, and let's see if he's able to get after Afari now, who's not had the perfect start to this race.
1 second, Martin, because I have to let you notice that Lamau got back under 1 second from Tamer, so I think the battle might be a little bit more on the next few laps. So lap 4, I think that's already the point where the mediums are starting to feel a little bit of tire wear compared to the hard tires.
Yeah, that might just be right, although I would have to expect it's going to take a bit longer than that. It may just be a case of the actual real race pace between the 2 tyres being fairly similar, so we'll see. Either that or Elias is just really pushing at this point, which may even be a good call, maybe part of his strategy. We'll have to wait and see. He is going to be just about within DRS range, but if the sprint race is anything to go by, nowhere near close enough to make a move. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, but obviously the closer fights are a bit further down the field, and now into the pit is Bimpo, so that's on lap 4 from hard tyres. That's got to be for damage.
Yeah, I have to guess it's for damage, and that's going to ruin his race pretty much. Yeah, he's going to retire directly because he was expecting to go on again. As you can see, it's going to be difficult to complete a race with either the mediums or the soft from this point on. Also, penalties are raining a little bit, as we see right now, the Master fighting the Ferrari of Ashima. But as I was saying, penalties are raining a little bit, but I think we're gonna see a lot of penalties rain a lot later, when people are gonna go there for their pit stop, and that's mainly because you're driving with the same tires from the start, and you expect the grip to be similar throughout the whole stint. Then you go into the pit lane, you mount fresh tires, you go into the first corner expecting to have the same grip, and then bam, the car turns a lot more than you expect, and that's a track limit warning for you.
Yeah, indeed, that is something that I think is we might be quite likely to see here, and perhaps will even be enhanced if we do see safety cars. Perhaps people will be converting to 2 stops. We'll have to wait and see, but obviously it is important to remember safety cars here, though not impossible, are quite hard to come by given the vast expenses of runoff. So I'm not going to put it past any of these drivers, given, you know, you wouldn't expect crashes in Bahrain, and we ended up with 5 safety cars there, so it's far from out of possibility, but it is slightly more unlikely than at other venues. Meanwhile, we have Loris now, posing a bigger threat to Lamau, yes, than he is to the race lead, so let's see if the Alfa Romeo is able to do anything with that, or what I would imagine is he's just going to be sitting there in P3 with the medium tyres and using the DRS to keep himself in the fight for the lead.
Yeah, I feel like even if he wanted to overtake the Ferrari, he really couldn't, because the Ferrari has the DRS from Tamer, so they are stuck in that DRS train situation where no one can actually gain on the other because they are a little bit too fast, and the DRS advantage is a little bit negated by the fact that everyone has it.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see if he's able to do something in the middle sector instead then. That would be very tricky, and he's already passed the best opportunity for that, which is, as you pointed out, into turn 6. But yeah, he just seems to be sitting right in behind, and yeah, very much right in behind. He's got some very good pace here by the looks of things, Loris. Either that or he's just not managing his tyres the same way the cars ahead of him are. That is obviously a possibility, and that will be reflected by the end of the race. So we'll see how it pans out, but yeah, it's just at this stage of the race, whilst there's not too many battles happening, it's just a case of waiting and seeing what the what's going to happen later on. See if we can predict the events. But obviously, this is just the calm before the storm right now, and obviously, if the sprint race is anything to go by, then there certainly will be a storm by the end of this one.
Yeah, but you know, 2.5 tenths, I think that's gonna be a little bit more than enough to try and overtake here. So let's keep an eye on the Alfa Romeo, because I feel like he's gonna try and overtake the Ferrari right here, right now, with the DRS and the main straight. But I think the Ferrari is also using overtake to defend itself, so I don't think we're gonna see an overtake in the turn 1. Still, yeah. It was close enough, I think, for an overtake there.
Yeah, I think it would have been, but Elias, he knows that he should not be fighting at this stage of the race. Meanwhile, somebody who is fighting, Afari and Mal, but Mal, fighting his rear end as well on the exit of turn 1, and just about stays ahead of Afari, who gets really checked up there as the Williams has a compromised line into turn 2 and might just be under fire into turn 4 here, but I think with the soft tyres, Afari might have to just sit in behind, although the soft tyres probably are quite warm by this point. That might have been why we saw the oversteer, so Afari is going to be in behind, but I suspect quite eager to get back past. And yeah, as we were saying, I think the reason that Lamarias has stayed ahead of Loris there is because he used a lot of battery and knows that he has to keep himself out of any fighting at this point and make sure that he keeps within 1 second of that Williams.
Yeah, and I think he's gonna probably have to use a little bit of battery right now too, because once again Loris is actually a little bit behind now. It's 3-4 tenths right now, but he's still close enough, I think, to try and do something in the turn 1 if he's not careful enough. So, you know, it's one of those situations where maybe Loris is not really too dangerous for the Ferrari driver, but at the same time is something you have to keep in mind every time you go through the main straight. So he's there. You have to keep him in mind before you actually decide to do something, because either if you get caught slacking, you're gonna get overtaken. So he's not gonna get caught slacking in this exact lap, but you never know. Meanwhile, also battle right behind, I think, between the McLaren and the Williams.
And it is going to be Afari getting the re-overtake he was looking for, as I predicted, and now perhaps Maxcon going to try and go for it round the outside of turn 1. He goes way too deep on the brakes though, and again sliding as the Williams, so those soft tyres clearly starting to go off here, so that's important to keep in mind. Soft tyres seem to only last around about 7 or 8 laps, so come the end of this one, we're expecting perhaps Afari and Bimpo, well, Bimpo obviously retired from the race, but perhaps Afari is going to be on softs by the end of this race, so we'll have to see if he's able to make those tyres last any longer, but yeah, still, as we say, things are fairly calm at the moment. Obviously, we do have moves between these guys as they are on different tyre strategies, but at the moment, up at the front of the field, it is just Elias trying to make sure he keeps himself ahead of keep himself ahead of the headache behind him, that is Loris, and stay within 1 second of Tamer, so that once the strategy switches over into his favour and he's on the mediums, he's able to, in his mind, romp away with the victory.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm starting to think that there are many people that are a little bit, you know, undercover right now at this point of the race, but may actually come back a little bit on the later half. And one of these drivers, I think, is Levante Kiss, because of course he's on the hard tires, so he's not really going too fast as you may think. But you also have to keep in mind that he's going to probably go on to soft tires near the end of the race and probably come back to the leaders, especially if they fight hard enough. So I'd keep an eye on him on the rest of the race. Meanwhile, we see the other Williams, Malb, going to the pit lane, as you correctly predicted during the last lap, and going into a different kind of tire. We'll see soon enough which one it is.
Yeah, and we have quite a few position changes as well there, as Shadow gets ahead of ahead of Maxgun, and I think that was, yeah, the other one was just Leland overtaking Malb, who is in the pits, and onto a set of hard tyres, so I would have to guess he's going to try and take those to the end now, but we're going to have to wait and see how well that works for him. I suspect he's going to be struggling a bit with the tyre temperatures and the tyre wear towards the end of the race, but obviously this battle up at the front of the field has actually closed down a bit in the last few laps, and so Elias now only about 6 tenths behind the Williams instead of 7 or 8, and Loris only 3 tenths behind the Ferrari.
Yep, so the battle on the lead may look stale, but trust me, strategically speaking, it's gonna turn quite interesting, especially near the end of the race. Right now, everyone is not fighting because they don't really want to, they don't want to lose time, because as I said, also there's the Haas behind and everyone else who is hungry, of course, for more, and you never know. Also, now that the soft tires went into the pit lane, we also have to wonder when will the mediums start to drop off and go into the pit lane, because right now, I think the hard are fast enough to catch up to the mediums, or at least stay on the same pace. And as you can see, of course, Lamau, yes, he's having not a lot of trouble to stay close to the Williams soft tamer into P1. And I think in a few laps times, we may also see him try and overtake him.
Yeah,
so let's keep an eye, of course, on these guys, but we never know. Something may happen.
I think perhaps at the end of this lap, or maybe the one after, I think the tyre balance will have swung towards the hard driver's favours, so we'll have to see if Elias is going to take advantage of that. I would have to assume so, because he knows what he needs to do in this race, and what he needs to do is get himself, ideally, into P1 before Tam is able to come into the pits. So we'll see if he's able to do that, or if Tam is going to go for an undercut. There's still plenty of doors left open, but I think these guys, failing a safety car, which is obviously not at all out of the question, but failing a safety car, I think it is going to be these three who are the main contenders for the win of this race at the moment.
I personally don't think we're going to see a safety car, especially at this point that everyone is a little bit more spread out and the main battles don't involve a lot of cars. So even though there's may still be some crashes, I don't think it's going to be hard enough to cause a safety car. Well, I mean, we're in tier 1, we never know, but at this point, I think we're a little bit safe from the safety car. Or at least I hope so.
Yeah, you would think, but like I said earlier on, this is tier 1, we can't rule out any kind of possibilities, so yeah, it's always there as just a looming threat that you can never be too confident about, but I would have to agree with your idea that it's fairly unlikely, but is a move likely at the front of the field? It doesn't look like it just yet, so I reckon Elias, either he was just saving a bit more battery on that lap, might go for a push this time around, or he is just going to wait in behind until the tyre balance is clearly in his favour, and try and strike without causing any damage to his tyres.
I was also thinking which is gonna be the lap for the medium tires. I was thinking about lap 14, maybe 15, but I'm not sure because I forgot literally the screen we saw at the beginning of the race with the race strategies. So we're gonna find out on the field when it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
but,
generally tends to be about halfway through the race. People like to make the most of their medium tyres so that they're not on the hards for too long, so I would imagine you're right with that. Around about lap 14 is when I'd expect to see people in, but obviously, with the fight at the front of the field being as close as it is, all three cars within less than a second, I suspect it is possible that we might see the likes of Tamer and Loris, or one of them at least, going for either an undercut or an overcut here, so we'll see which way it goes. But what we do have at the moment is Lamau, yes, actually dropping back quite a bit from the Williams, so I wonder if Tamer's just going full push now. Is he going to be in this lap? No, he's going to stay out, but in this lap is Elias.
Yes, in the lap. Huh,
Very
that's surprising.
interesting.
That is surprising, of course, because, you would expect the hot tires to go, longer, but that's going to be a long stint on the mediums. I don't know if it's going to be easy, let's say, for him.
Yeah, and also joining him in the pits is a Ferrari, so clearly seems to be some coordination. It's not entirely a rogue strategy from the Ferrari driver, so yeah, let's see. He has indeed gone onto a set of mediums, as will a Ferrari, so I reckon a Ferrari is probably going to use... Yeah, I would have to guess a Ferrari is going to switch to a two-stop and use the soft tyres that he saved in qualifying come the end of the race, but Elias, he didn't save a set of tyres, so... Well, I don't think he did anyway, so I'm not entirely sure what his strategy is here, unless he is actually just going to go to the end on these mediums, in which case he's going to have a whole lot of tyre wear to deal with, you would imagine at least, come the end of the race, and I think Tamer might just be licking his lips about now, either that, or he's going to stay out for the next 6 laps as well.
I'm starting to think that he's gonna actually try and go to the end of the race with those medium tires, which is kind of surprising if you think about it, because tire wear is gonna be absolutely extreme near the end of the of the race, like lap 98. Sorry, not 98. 27, 28 are gonna be like near puncture territory, if not like puncture territory. So it's gonna be absolutely difficult to do that. And also, you also have to wonder if Tamer and Loris are gonna answer to that, because that was surprising. And yes, they are. They are into the pit lane, and they are gonna want onto the hard tires to go to the end of the race. So interesting situation in the top split
yeah,
of the
very
race.
interesting. I'm gonna refer back to what I said a bit earlier on, wherein I suspect that the actual pace differential between the medium and the hard isn't actually that significant. So perhaps doing whichever way around you do it might not make too much difference. Although, I mean, Tamer is going to be on, he'll be on 1 lap fresher hard tyres than Elias's mediums come the end of the race. So is he going for a 3-stop here? We're going to have to wait and see. It'll be the same thing for Afari, like we say. Not 3-stop, a 2-stop. But yeah, this is going to be very interesting. And Lamoyes, obviously, with the undercut on the medium tyres, is now going to take the provisional lead of the race, or the net lead of the race. So yeah, he's got the track position, but he has got a very tall order ahead of him. And if he is going for a 2-stop, he needs to make some serious ground on that Williams now.
I personally don't think he's gonna go for a 2-stop. Because
Me neither.
I don't think it's gonna be worth enough. Either he tries to pull out a big ass gap right now, which I don't think is actually possible, especially considering how close the pace is for everyone else and with the different tires. But at the same time, I don't know, because I feel like if they actually wanted to go with a singular stop, I think they had to wait a little bit more, just like, I don't know, 1 or maybe 2 laps for the strategy to work a little bit better, because I think it was a little bit too early for all drivers to go into the pit lane like in lap 11 and lap 12 like they did.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a tall order, a very, very tall order in both ways.
Indeed. So I have to say, I think that was the right call from Tamer to come in now, so that he's going to have he's not lost too much time to Elias. We'll see if he's able to get back within the DRS range. It's currently 1.5 seconds right now, but if he can do that, and if he can reel himself back into DRS range, as Loris side by side with Yokata, who's just he's on a different strategy, so obviously it's pretty simple passes for everybody there. But yeah, if Tamer is able to get himself back within DRS range of Elias in, well, anytime soon, then he's going to have I would reckon, a very strong chance. But obviously, Elias, he's the only driver in the field with, as far as I know, an active strategist. Obviously, Aero is going to be the one doing the maths for him behind the scenes. He doesn't have to worry about that too much. So whatever he's cooked up, we'll have to wait and see if that works for them. But yeah, I would have to say, a risky call, but it could work out quite well for them if the tyre wear is low enough.
I think we've just got to buckle up and get ready for the last few laps of this race, because there are going to be fire if this keeps up like this. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, like I say, I would have to imagine that it's going to be the case that come the end of the race, it will swing the other way in terms of the tyre advantage. Is now very close together and almost making contact. Oof! With the lag, it looked like they did make contact, but that's Malb right on the back of Levente Kiss, and yeah, the desync really not helping out here. They're incredibly close together as they head through 12, 13, and 14, but it seems like they are going to just about make it through cleanly. That was a bit of a scare for a second, as up at the front of the field, Hashimet lets his teammate through, unsurprisingly, and
I think he went to the pit lane. No, actually, still
no,
out.
he stayed out. It was that was, I believe, Bacon Boys, who is unfortunately now a lap down, who was the one into the pits. But yeah, Hashimet lets his teammate through, and now does his teammate a big old favour by blocking the Williams of Tamer. So this is the perfect strategy for Ferrari. Now you can see what they were cooking up. Aero has worked his magic here, because Tamer cannot get past that Ferrari. Heading towards turn 4, he's going to have the outside. They're both on hard tyres. The tyre advantage isn't that big, and he's going to fight it all the way as Hashimet, but he's going to fight it at his own peril.
Boy.
Spins out, and just about spins off the track there, and off the racing line, thankfully. But Tamer, as Afari gets very close to him, has been severely compromised there. He's lost, what's that, about a second and a half to the other Ferrari's works. So yeah, that's some very interesting strategy plays there, but I have to say, very smart as well, although the contact, I suspect, will be under review by the stewards.
You know, if I were Stewards, I would remove the penalty for Tamer, mainly because I think the penalty came after the contact with Ferrari. And let's be completely honest, that that was not really a clean strategy from the Ferrari, trying to block off someone charging at you by literally blocking every position with a car that still has to pit. I mean, we saw Bottas do that in real life during the 2017 to 2021 era, but really it's not something we enjoy too much seeing in real life. But that happened, and now the race is still on, and 2.5 seconds separates P1 to P2.
I mean, I have to say, it was up until the contact at turn 5. It seemed mostly by the book. I'm not entirely sure about the rules on blocking, so we'll have to wait and see. As meanwhile, we have now Hashima being passed by the Williams of Melb, who is in his own situation earlier on with Levente, who has now actually dropped down the order quite a bit, down to P8. So not entirely sure what's going on there as Bacon Boys retires from the session. He was obviously, like we say, a lap down, and unfortunately his day just hadn't panned out. But yeah, some big controversial circumstances here, and I think you would be right to point out that that penalty that Tamer has been given might just be might have to be reviewed and repealed by the stewards after the race.
Yep, so either he waits for Lamau Yes to get another penalty,
or
I think it's going to be...
a puncture for Hashima on only 15 lap-old hard tyres. That might be quite concerning.
I mean, I hope it's because he had a spin, and when you spin, you get a little bit more tire wear than usual. But still, it's a bit concerning to get on lap 15 a puncture with hard tire, especially for Lamau Yes. So I don't know if the math is right, Chief, but you know how Ferrari strategies are, so we can just hope.
Yeah, 15 laps. I mean, even with the spins, I think he might have had a second spin. I'm not sure, but yeah, from that one spin alone, you wouldn't think that would be that damaging. So I think perhaps a few nervous looks over the shoulder from the Ferrari strategy team at the moment. But like I say, they are the only team that do have a proper in-race strategy team. So I think they should know what they're doing, but obviously, like you say, it is Ferrari, you can never be too certain, but they have been pretty solid so far this season, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. But yeah, things are looking good for them as it stands, but in the long term, it seems to be a bit of a sketchy plan, I have to say, as Tamer now has already closed in by another second.
There is one way I can think this can work for the Ferrari, but it's so stupid that I don't think it can actually be true. Which is the fact that by going into the pit lane early, he actually scared his rival to go into the pit lane early as well, so no one of them actually has the capacity to go to the end of the race with the current tires, so they all have to go for another stop. And Lamau Yes is going to go for the second stop while everyone else is going to be too stubborn to go for it, and then punctures for everyone except him, so in the end he wins the race. But that's so, so fetched out that I don't think it's going to happen.
That is a reach and a half, I believe is what the technical term for that is. I'm not entirely convinced by that, but I like the thinking. It's very creative, though I would have to assume that Tamer would be wise enough to see that coming and just think, well, there's no point copying this guy because he's pit way too early. But what I would think that makes the most sense is that Tamer has seen Elias come in and thought, okay, there's a genuine possibility that he can make it to the end, so it's best just to cover him off. And so far, I have to say, despite the interaction, I'll call it, with Elias's teammate, that has worked out quite well for him. And meanwhile, an interaction at turn 1, a big old accident there, multiple cars involved. That's Shadow, Levente, Kiss, Malb, all coming to grief at the first corner. Maxcon just about makes it through cleanly and picks up 4 pleases in the process, but I have no clue what's gone on there. I wonder if they might have tried to go 3 wide, but either way, I've had chaos up at the first corner.
I would also like to point out that the top 3 situation has turned out to be, meanwhile we also have a battle between the Haas and the Williams once again, but as I was saying, the situation, big touch, a little bit of a scrappy battle between these two, but as I was trying to say, I hope I can finish my sentence before they crash. The situation in the top 3 turned out to be a little bit more even, because now Lamau Yes also has a penalty, so all of the top 3 has a penalty, so they are on equal terms, at least on term of race position and time penalties, let's say. Meanwhile, track limits are an opinion here in this battle, as we can see.
I have no clue what's going on here. It's a completely chaotic battle. Round the outside, surely there was contact there. Somehow they keep it facing the right way, but into the pits, and going for an overtake into the pits, no less, making it work, but clattering into the wall goes Levente Kiss. This is just a ridiculous battle. He's going for the inside line into the pit lane. I suspect he's going to retire.
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are retiring.
Malp seems to be staying in the race now. He's retired as well, so I have no clue what's just gone on between those guys. They've thrown away an actual chance at points there, and now, all of a sudden, if you finish the race, you are going to get points, so Davey and Hashima have been thrown a bit of a lifeline, but yeah, I think that's, well, that might just be our last chance at a safety car in this race gone by now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun discussion because these two drivers in the in the cooldown room, but let's just hope things got not a lot too heated. Meanwhile, we have now just, I think, 10 drivers left, so everyone who's going to finish the race is going to be in the points, if they can finish, of course.
Yeah, it seems easier said than done, despite the walls being so far back here. We've had 4 DNFs already, so it's certainly possible, but yeah, it's unfortunately, things just devolving for a second between a few of the drivers there, and that's never something you like to see, but thankfully, we do still have 10 drivers left in the race, and 7 of them with penalties, which we should take this opportunity to take a look at. And, well, Shadow certainly leading the charge here today, and picking up from where Kateshi usually leaves off, with 21 seconds.
We should do a championship for the seconds of penalty you get into in a race. So, like, if you can't actually win the race, you can actually try and win the penalties championship and try to get as many as possible. And right now, let's say that Pitmaster is leading with a 24 seconds penalty right now in P6, actually P7. I think he just spun.
Yeah, he's going to retire.
No, actually, no, he's the Mercedes just spun.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think you're right. There was a mistake from Davey, but Shadow also retiring as well. So now leaves us with only 9 drivers left in the race. So they're dropping like flies here, even though, as we say, it is Qatar. There's literally no walls to hit, but everybody still seems to have... Well, they're either struggling... Maybe we're seeing what the real-life race could have turned out with. Maybe everybody's getting sick from driving the track so long. I don't know. But... yeah, up at the front of the field, what I did want to point out is Elias has picked up a 3-second time penalty of his own, so if Tamas does get removed after the incident is reviewed, then it's entirely possible that all of a sudden that disadvantage has swung the other way, and Tama might only need to be within 3 seconds, but obviously we're going to have to treat it as though it's going to be decided as it is on the track.
And speaking of battle on the track, we can see that the DRS is getting open on that Williams, and the battle is once again on for the lead on lap 21 out of 29. So this is going to be quite interesting. Also, I can see the Williams used a lot of batteries, so he's going to try and recharge maybe in the next few laps. And in the next of course laps, we're going to see of course who's going to try and win this race, because the battle is of course on for the lead.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one to see how this pans out, because I am still absolutely desperate to know how this Ferrari strategy master plan is going to work out. 18 laps on medium tyres, are they going to be able to make it work? And seemingly the one struggling with the tyres at the moment is the Williams of Tama, who has a big old slide there on the way into turn 7, but keeps nice control of the car and doesn't seem to lose too much time. So yeah, Elias must be really working the medium tyres, well, working some magic with the medium tyres at the moment to try and keep them within a window in which he can defend the lead, but I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to do that for, because Tama now, the gap down to 0.5 of a second, and I suspect he's going to be sailing by into turn 1.
Yeah, I expect this is not going to be an easy defending situation for the Ferrari, and
he
goes into the pit lane. I was fucking right. I was right.
Unbelievable.
I cannot believe it.
Sign this guy up for the Ferrari strategy team, because he has nailed it, and into the pits are both of the race leaders. Loris is going to stay out though and go, well, either he's going to go to the end now, which I would have to say I would love to see him try, but yeah, Tama into the pit, onto a set of soft, alongside Elias, also onto soft tyres, so you were exactly right about that strategy call, and yeah, Tama did indeed decide to copy Elias's strategy and revert around to a 2-stop race, which means now it is genuine track position, and Elias has actually made that strategy work. The Ferrari master plan has put him in the lead of the race, and Maxcon now in a fight he doesn't really belong in, and sensibly decides to back out. And yeah, so Tama is going to have to do it all over again and get himself back up into P1 on the track.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Loris, I think, actually has the capacity to go to the end of the race with the hot tire. So actually, Loris is actually if he actually tries to go to the end of the race, he's in a position to actually win. Well, meanwhile, Lamau, yes, with this move, managed to go into equal terms with Tamer. So this is like the sprint race once again, 1v1. No difference in tires, no difference in strategy. It's just a skill battle between the two drivers.
I have to say, if I was Loris right now, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that I'd be staying out, because I think... well, never mind, he's going to go straight into the pits, so that's a shame. He's going to play it sensible, but yeah, I would have definitely stayed out there, because I think he would have ended up in the same position anyway, even if the tyre disadvantage was big enough. I think he would have still ended up in P3 or P4, so it might have been worth trying it, but unfortunately we will never know now. So that does mean this is going to be the straight fight for the win. Ignoring any penalties, we'll see what the situation is with that after the race. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do to call it. So, yeah, this is the fight for the race lead on the track, and here we go again. It's taken a while to kick off, but it's about to do it now. Into turn 1, not quite close enough as Tamer this time around, but with 6 laps to go, this race has heated up and the storm is finally here.
And as we did in the sprint race, let's take a little bit of a count. So, lap 23, Lamau Yes is leading. If he overtakes into lap 24, then we got Tamer leading into lap 24. Then lap 25, Lamau Yes. Lap 26, Tamer. Lap 27, Lamau Yes. 28, Tamer. And then 29, Lamau Yes, if things stand like this. Of course, it's a little bit too long to count this kind of stuff, but we can still start from this point. So, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see how it plays out.
Indeed, gives us a jumping off point, but I think what is going to be, as it was in the sprint race, the deciding factor is, well, basically, who decides to budge, and I think it's going to be a very difficult one to call, because I have to say, the correct strategy for Tamer would be to stay behind for every single lap until the final lap of the race, and go for the move then. So we'll see what he does, or if he decides to go for the move into turn 1 this time around. It's going to be... It's hard to call, but I would have to say, if he gives up the track position, if he gains the track position and lets Elias behind him, then Elias then has the opportunity to just not repass him until the final lap. So, here we go, let's find out what's going to happen. Is the Williams going to back off, or is he going to go for it? He moves out of the toe, and indeed he backs off. DRS is closed well before the braking zone, and Tamer, I think, is going to do exactly what I predicted, and things might just get a little bit messy between the two if Elias perhaps even tries to force his way to get back into second.
And this is like playing with fire with Tamer, because we saw in the sprint race that it's not, of course, a given if the change of position. Like, if Lamau Yes saves enough battery, he can actually try and avoid an overtaking, of course, into the last lap. And with that, also, there are many other variables, like the possible overtaking to the hairpin we just seen, and many other places where if you are desperate enough, you can still try and do something to gain a position. So this battle is not given, even though math says so.
Yeah,
so we're going to see what
not.
happens.
Plenty of variables that can still come into it, and one of them, as I just saw the Williams go off the track there, is obviously penalties, because you could still, certainly, pick up 1 or 2 more of them. These are the class of the field, clearly, as it's been through qualifying, the sprint and the race, but yeah, that does not make them invulnerable to penalties, as we've seen, both of them, with 3 seconds, as it is at this point in the race. We don't know how legitimate those are, especially in Tamer's case, but yeah, like I say, that is for the stewards to decide, and what is for us to, well, commentate on now, is whether Tamer is going to do exactly what he did last lap, and stay in behind, or if this time he's going to go for the move, as Maxcon now, into the pit, he's going to follow the 2-stop as well, and here we go towards turn 1. This time Tamer is going to go for it. Into the lead he goes. Elias isn't able to really fight it. Does he even want to fight it? It's impossible to tell, but it is now Tamer back into the lead of the race, as these guys are coming up in a little bit of lap traffic, but I suspect Davey will be right out of the way. There we go. And yeah, this battle is looking incredibly interesting now for the end of this race.
Yeah, we can also safely say that Tamer did the math, and now he's just gonna hope that his calculations were right, because right now the risk is of course calculated, but we are gonna see which one is actually good at math here.
Yeah, it's gonna be it is impossible to call, because like we say, either you want to be in behind on the final lap, or you might want to be ahead if you've got enough battery saved, like Lamau Yes was able to do in the sprint race. There is, like, both strategies can work here, so Tamer, I suspect, is going to try now and rump away a bit from the Ferrari behind him, but they are on exactly equal tyre wear, so it's going to be, basically, there's nothing to separate these two, and it's, yeah, all up in the air until the checkered flag. Anyone can still win this race.
It's just about who actually can manage to read the situation better, because now we can see if Lamau yes actually want to play by the book or throw the calculations off by not overtaking him. Let's see, because he's getting closer with the DRS open and he wants to get into the lead. While of course there's also the other Ferrari getting out right now. Let's hope he doesn't do anything too hasty, let's say here, but now the lead changes once again, and Lamau yes is back into the lead into lap 26.
Well, I have to point out though, the Ferrari of Hashima, he's on fresh soft tyres, so he might just try and maybe even unlap himself here. But I mean, I would have to say, if he knows what's good for him, he would have to stay out of this fight, because he's already probably going to be in enough strife with the stewards after the end of this one. But yeah, just an added little bit of extra pressure behind now, and perhaps that is just going to be the strategy, because that would be perfectly legal for the Ferrari of Hashima to do. He's a lap down, so he can just sit right in behind that Williams of Tama and keep him on his toes the entire way and see if he can't help pressure him into a mistake. So perhaps even a whole new dimension has just been added to an incredibly complicated battle already.
This is not either a battle of driving skills, it's also a battle of intellect, and we are seeing
warfare.
So many layers of mental battle right here that it's getting a little literally impossible to call out. So we're gonna see right now in the last sector if the Williams of Tamer is gonna use the DRS to try and overtake once again Lamau yes. So let's see. DRS gets open right now. The Ferrari right behind goes with a little bit of a weave, but now of course Tamer goes into the lead. Let's see if in the braking zone he's ahead. Yes, he's straight ahead and is now gonna go into the lead into lap 27.
So 3 laps to go, and it is Tama back into the lead of the race. So that's probably perhaps maybe that move was a little bit motivated by the Ferrari behind him of Hashima, giving him a little bit of trouble. And Hashima does seem to have some plenty good enough pace to stick with these guys, obviously on the fresher softs. So this is going to be very interesting now. But Tama has gotten away just a little bit here, heading into the middle sector of the lap. But yeah, obviously this one far from over just yet. And I could not call which way this is going to go. If they do switch places every lap, then it will be Elias into the lead onto the next lap, then Tama back into the lead onto the final lap. But obviously, Elias isn't going to let that happen, is he? So yeah, impossible to call. And let's see what can still happen yet in this race, because it is still, with only 2 and a bit laps left to go, far from over.
You know, one man would say that the victor is written in destiny, but right now we cannot read destiny. We can just watch this race and see how it's gonna pan out, because right now we're gonna get back into the DRS zone and into turn 1, which of course is the main overtaking spot. And with the DRS, Lamau yes is gonna be able, of course, to try and overtake him. But this is what destiny says. Will destiny actually repeat itself here, or will we see a change of it?
Is he going to back off? Is he going to go for it? He goes for it.
He's not going to back off.
Up the inside he'll go, and is Tama going to try and fight it? No, he's going to wait in behind, so it's going to have to be a case of exactly what we saw in the sprint, unless Tama decides to go for the move somewhere in the middle sector here. Either that, or it is going to be deja vu, and he's going to have a second chance to right his wrongs from the first time around, but he's not going to be able to find a way through here just yet. So what he has to do now is, through the middle sector of the lap, save as much battery as that Williams can possibly hold, and likewise for the Ferrari of Elias, to try and stay ahead. And well, he might actually have to use a bit of battery here to break a bit of a gap, because right now Tama still all over the back of him. If they got to the main straight like this, he would be right past no matter how much battery Elias has got in the tank.
And also we gotta ask ourselves how many battery both of them have, because I saw the Williams has like 40% I think battery, which is I think more than enough to try and overtake, but Elias has a lot more than him. So oh boy, this is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be very, very interesting, because this next straight is gonna decide everything.
Here we go then. Through turn 15 they'll go, and Tama has done everything he needed to do this lap. He's not saved too much battery, but he is right on the back of that Ferrari. So onto the final lap of the race, he is almost certainly going to take the lead into the first corner. Here we go then. We'll switch back to off-board to see him make the move, because up the inside, heading towards the final lap of the race they go, and it is Tama who takes the lead. Can Elias do anything to fight it into turn 1? He can't do it just yet, so let's see what he can do. He's got more battery than the Williams. We know that. You can see it on the steering wheel, but is he going to be able to do anything with it, or is it going to be a case of what we saw in the sprint race, just fending off through the middle sector? Because I think Tama is in the driving seat right now.
Right now the Ferrari can try 2 things. One is attacking into the hairpin, which is not unlikely, but I don't think it's gonna go for it. And the second thing is, of course, is using all the battery in the last straight to try and go for a photo finish with the Williams. this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the final battle for the lead. And of course, right now there's just 2 sectors between these 2 drivers and a victory position, and of course a victory trophy.
All that Ferrari can do is try and stick as close as is physically possible through the middle sector. He seems to be a little bit lacking on downforce. He must have compromised the aero a bit because he's dropped back a bit, and that's what we've seen earlier. But slow for a second there, I think, was Tamer. I don't know what just went on, but he backed off for a moment because now Elias has closed right back up to him. It seemed like it was going to be set in stone and done for the Williams, but he was a little bit slow. I don't know what went on. He's wide now, out of turn 15, but here we go. Final corner, final lap. What can this Ferrari engine do? Is it going to be enough to carry him to his second win of the season, or is Tamer going to be able to hold on? We'll ride on board as they go to the line. It's going to be close, but not close enough. Tamer just about does enough, even with the little mistake, and Tamer is able to take his second win of the season, 2 on the bounce for the Williams, and he will hold on for a brilliantly earned race victory. Side by side over the line go Afari and Loris. That was Afari getting the move on penalties there, and what a finish to the race here once again.
And as you can see now, we can also see Jorkata getting into P5 with his Haas, and incredibly, no penalties, so great drive from him, even though you may say that it wasn't nothing too impressive, but trust me, not getting penalties in a race such as this one is impressive by itself. And now we wait just for the AlphaTauri and the Alpine to get to the end finish line and finish this whole section with this, well, amazing battle we had for the lead in the last few laps.
Yeah, that was an absolute joy to watch. I had no clue which way it was going to go whatsoever, and in the end it was Tamer who gets his revenge for the sprint race and, is able to get himself onto the top step of the podium. A brilliant drive by both of them, I have to say. They did everything within their power. It was an impossible to predict scenario, and it is the Williams who comes out on top as Maxcon does his tradition of going smashing over the wall. His pain is over, and it's rewarded with a P6 at one of his least favourite tracks. So good job by him, just keeping it clean, and indeed it does pay off, as Davey coasts over the line to wrap up the field in P9. So, what a great end to the race that was, and a brilliant battle for the race win that went all the way from lights to flag. And it is Tamer who comes out on top, but Elias, I have to say, a fantastic drive by him as well.
But I had to say, what a fantastic race from start to finish, really.
Indeed.
It had many layers, strategies which were really interesting in my opinion, interesting battles, and, well, mainly everything. So if you ever want to rewatch a race from this league, watch this one, because this was a really, really good one. Absolutely.
It's I'm glad to say that it was a bit of the opposite of what we saw last week. It was mostly clean racing all the way through, which is what we like to see, and some brilliant battles, especially in the sprint race. But even at the end there for the win, that was something that you absolutely love to see, and it does come out with Tamer on the top step from Elias in P2, and Afari ends up with the penalties, like we say, getting himself a neat little P3 on his return after missing a race. So good job by him as well to get himself onto the podium from what was that? From he started third, never mind, I'm misreading it. Yeah, from third on the grid, he finishes third, so good job by him. Then it is going to be Loris in P4, Yokata P5, after, again, just keeping things clean for the whole race and having the pace to stay ahead of the rest of the pack. Gets a good haul of points for his team. Then it's Maxcon P6 again, another strong result for him, for AlphaTauri. Leland P7, doing a great job once again, so that's 7th in both sprint and feature race by him, so brilliant drives by him as a reserve. Then Leventekis, unfortunately, down all the way in P8, it did not go how he would have wanted, and Hashima P9 rounding out the finishes, apparently, because Davey, never mind, yeah, I misread all of that. Alright, well, ignore the parts of that were wrong. We got the top 7 right, at least. Then it's Hashima P8, and somebody else in P9, it would have been Davey, wouldn't it? So yeah, there we go. Got there in the end. And that is going to be the end of the race here. So yeah, that was a joy to watch, and we are going to have to go and take ourselves a little 5-minute break now before we get ourselves underway with the driver interviews and the driver of the day poll. We'll see you in a few minutes' time. All right. Hello again, everybody. We are back once again. We have the driver of the day poll in the Twitch chat and in the league chat. So you can go and vote on that, and we'll hopefully review the results at the end of the stream, as long as I don't somehow forget. Yeah, with that done, that means it is time for us to get underway with some driver interviews, and as is customary, we will start off, of course, with our race winner, Tama, who, yeah, I have to say, drove a very impressive race. Let's get him in. Tama, hello.
Hello.
You good
Why
for an
is your
interview?
voice so low? Hmm?
Are you ready for an interview?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I mean, I have to say, first of all, congratulations. That was a very, very tough battle between the two of you, it looked like. A strategic battle mostly in the feature race, but yeah, you came out on top in the end. So, yeah, walk us through your perspective of that fight.
Yeah, I mean, like, I had to do like a lot of math in terms of laps because we were equal pace, and unfortunately in the sprint didn't work out. But yeah, in the race, I know that I had the pace, and yeah, there was some suspicious and weird incidents that happened, but nevertheless,
Mm-hmm.
got people, and that's what it is. I mean, went back. I'm going into the next race weekend with 26 points. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. You got yourself top step of the podium with, like I say, very good strategic drive. I want to ask the first question about the race. Was your initial strategy to do a two-stop, or was that a change that you made to react to Elias's strategy?
So I knew that me and Elias were like probably the only two people to contend for the race. Loris was quite up there. He caught me off guard, but later throughout the stint, I realized that he's dropping off a bit, so he would not be a threat. Initially, it was supposed to be a one stop from mediums to hards, but I just had to mimic whatever Elias made because since I closed up massively in the second stint. And yeah, since we're equal, just try my best to hang with him. Trade a couple places and do the math, and then yeah, in the end, it worked out.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, that means Max, you were right. You called it perfectly.
Yeah,
So
call me Nostradamus.
congrats on that. But yeah, it was a very good job by you to make what wasn't really your ideal strategy to still convert to a different one midway through the race and make it work. So yeah, very good job on that. And the last thing that I'll ask you about is how do you what's your view on the little incident with Hashima in the middle of the race there?
Yeah, I mean, it's typical for Ferrari to try all these shenanigans. Well, clearly they have felt the pressure and they needed a second driver to intervene. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest. I mean, when I was behind him, he was dangerously slow through corners and braking massively. So, and we can see that in the span of two fast corners, Elias pulled out like a 1.5 second gap, so which is unacceptable. And yeah, I felt like I left a little bit more room, but the awareness gap between the drivers is not that much, and yeah, made our contact for the stewards to review later. But yeah, like I said again, it was unacceptable the way he was defending into the first two corners.
Yeah, it was not something I was. Well, it wasn't something I was expecting to see. It's not something you see often in, well, in LSC, I suppose. But yeah, you are right to to reference it to in real life. It is a bit more common there. But yeah, we'll see what the stewards' outcome is on that. But otherwise, I think for you, what's most important is you've done your part, and you've got yourself the top step of the podium. So very good job on that. Max, is there anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I have actually two questions, incredibly. The
Alright.
Go
first
for it.
one, the first one is at some point during the race, we saw the other Ferrari coming out of the pits, lapped of course, coming out behind your battle between you and Lamar, yes, for the lead of the race. Was this a concern at some point due to the blocking you had with the other Ferrari driver right before the race, or was it like you knew he was lapping and he was not going to intervene?
I mean, yeah, I mean, once again, they're trying their best to slow me down, and yeah, when he came out of the pits, it wasn't really a concern because I knew that he cannot overtake us because he's a back marker. But when I overtook Elias on the DRS and the next lap, I realized, okay, that they might try both of them to overtake me so they can slow me down. Thankfully, he bottled it before he tried doing that. So yeah, but it wasn't really a concern, and it was just full focus on Elias. I don't want anything in the back of my mind.
All right, makes sense. And the last question I wanted to ask was, during the sprint race, of course, we've seen both you and Elias doing the math. Like at some point, you knew that every lap you would have an overtake because of the DRS on the main straight. So at some point, you just counted how many laps there were and who would be on the first position at the end of the last lap. But at the end of the sprint race, you didn't manage to overtake Elias because I think he had like too much battery to use, so the overtaking wasn't really possible. So was that a little bit of a concern during the last part of the race? Like in the last 8 or 9 laps of the feature race, were you actually thinking about maybe the possibility of Elias trying to pull the same thing he did in the sprint race, or were you actually fully confident that you would have been able to overtake him before the end of the race?
Well, I was in the sprint. I just made a mistake heading to the last corner before the last lap. So yeah, in the race, it wasn't a concern at all. It was actually I was very comfortable leading heading into the final lap because I predicted that he would save his battery for the last lap, last straight, and he tried closing up massively into sector 3. But yeah, I was very confident overtaking him, and I saved like when I was overtaking him, I had to save VRS so I don't get overtaken the straight after. And yeah, it worked out. I mean, I got a really good exit at the final corner, and yeah, just from there, first.
All right, that makes it all for me from ask for questions. So that's nice to hear and great race.
Indeed,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you
Very
so
good
much.
job. All right, see you.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, so for once we actually have a lot to ask about. There was a very interesting race for Tema there, but I think he clearly did a good job of just dealing with the many challenges that were thrown his way.
I mean, there were a lot of mind games in the race, so we kind of just want to know what they were thinking during the whole race.
Indeed, yeah. All right, well, with that in mind, we will move on to the next interview, which will be with our P2 finisher, if he is there. Is he there? Yes, he is. So yeah, let's get the other side of the story, and let's hear from Lamau. Yes, Elias, hello. Hello. Well, a very interesting race for you there, I have to say. But unfortunately for you, it didn't quite pan out the way you'd have wanted in the end, and unfortunately has to you're having to settle for second again. How was the walk us through the battle from your POV?
Well, it was an interesting race today. Tire wear it was very confusing. I think it was a surprise to us all. I had 75% on the hards
God.
at the end of lap 11.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. That wasn't ideal, but yeah. I mean, sprint race went well. Battled cleanly with Tamer. But in the main race, it was very, very weird. Like, I could keep up with him on those hards in the starts, but yeah, then I boxed for mediums, and I was concerned. Like, I thought only some of us had the problem with tire wear, but as soon as I came in for the softs, it was clear that it was everyone who had the problem because Tamar came in.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, everyone came in actually. So yeah, it was a forced to stop. I think the in real life tire wear kicked in for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like I mean, from our point of view, it was a very questionable strategy for you because obviously we had no clue what was going on with the tire wear. But yeah, seeing you come in off of hard tires at the end of lap 11 was not something we were predicting, but it did almost end up working out for you. So yeah, it was worth trying, and yeah, it's I suppose useful to know that that wasn't your first choice of strategy then. So were you guys like you and Aero just like totally caught off guard by that then?
Yeah, I think yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think all of us were, and yeah. I mean, I think the win was very much possible today. I lost a lot of time because I had 2 game freezes. One during the start where I fell back half a second, and another one where I lost a second. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely Lost lost some time there, and um, yeah, I mean, could have done better in a few areas, but yeah, I mean, quali was interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
very close, very close.
honestly, I thought I was in for a really, shit lap, and then I did a 19.8. So something's up with the grip, but
Yeah, there was a little bit of inconsistency throughout the whole race from just like generally from a
it was a
grip
very
type
weird
point of
race.
view.
Yeah,
It was very a little bit bizarre to watch at times. Some of the driving was a bit bizarre as well, but thankfully not as much as last week. Although some of that does relate to you, I suppose, tangentially. Did you know what was going on with your teammate? Was that part of the plan?
I mean, what do you mean?
With Hashima, with your teammate Block and Tanner.
I think we gotta ask Area for this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
I mean, he wasn't told to do it. I mean, from what we saw, it looked fine. I have to look at another POV, but then in the end, um, I saw that Tamar basically closed the door on him, and that's why he spun. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'll have to
two.
look at a different angle or something,
I was
because
going to say that's a very different perspective to what we heard from Tanner. So, I mean, naturally, but yeah, it was a bit interesting. So, from your side, there wasn't, there was no communication for him to do that. Then,
no, not really. But
okay,
yeah, I mean, I'll see if I can, get another angle, maybe to make it more clear. But
yeah,
from the one we got on stream, honestly, doesn't look as bad as what Tomer said.
mm-hmm.
But
All
then,
right,
it clearly shows that he turned into Hashim in the end. So
yeah, we'll see
we'll
if
see.
yeah, like we
We'll
say,
leave that for the stewards. But
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But, yeah, I'll stop asking you about that since you clearly don't know exactly what happened. So yeah, fair enough. So you already said you think you could have won the race, but yeah, unfortunately, didn't quite work out in the end. So I'll ask you again. Do you think you'll be able to get back to the top step next week?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Austria is a good track for me. I think it's a good track for everyone, especially Tamar and Loris. And yeah, looking forward to it. It's a different track, and compared to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think I can win it as well. We'll see
All right.
after the steward decisions for this race. Maybe you never know.
Uh-huh. Keeping your
Maybe I
hopes
can
up.
get the
That's
win. Yep.
yeah. That's fair enough. Fair enough.
But
It's
if not, I mean, it's a P2. I mean, damage limitation.
yeah. I mean,
And
exactly. The I suppose the important thing for you is you're still. I mean, though we haven't had standings in a long time, yeah, as far as I can tell by some quick mental maths, you are still pretty comfortably in the lead as things stand. So, yeah,
yep,
I would say still a not a perfect race, but still a very good one for you. Max, do you have
yep,
any other
yep.
questions?
Yeah, can you count up to 5?
What?
Yeah. Can you count up to 5 like right here, right now?
1, 2, bye.
Oh, that
Oh, shit.
explains it.
Okay, well, yeah, that's why that was the problem. Well, we've identified it. We've solved strategy. Max, you should be filling in your application for Ferrari lead strategist. I think you can.
Nah,
solve
they
all the
wouldn't. They
problems.
wouldn't take me in really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, well, we'll move on to the next interview then, and that will be with our P3 finisher of Afari. Let's get him in. Afari, hello.
Hello.
You ready for an interview?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was. I'll be honest. I didn't get to see too much of your race because we did have slightly more pressing matters to pay attention to, I suppose. But still, ended up with you getting P3 on penalties and almost actually getting it on the track over the line as well. So, yeah. How was the race from you? And do you think you could have gotten more out of it today?
If my pedals were working, yes.
Ah, I see. Okay. So, I suppose something out of your control then. I mean, with that in mind, I have to say P3 must be a very good result for you then.
I don't know. I think, yeah. I mean, it wasn't hitting 100%. It was like 85% all the time,
I see.
maximum. So yeah, it only happened halfway through the sprint when I dropped out of DRS.
Right.
I don't remember what lap exactly, but when when Bimpo and the Haas car started to really catch up to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that I suppose
Uh,
that explains why you weren't quite up at the front of the field then today. So, you think without that you'd been able to fight for the win?
I think I would have been in DRS. I don't know if for the win. It might be because I had really low down for setup, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
I mean, still, I
I have no
suppose.
idea.
Yeah, the most important thing is you still got yourself onto the podium, got a solid
Yeah,
result in
good
the end.
points.
So, yeah, exactly. Good points. So, was there anything notable about your race that you'd wanna mention?
No, it was just me driving alone.
Fair enough. It did seem to be
Yeah,
like that for quite a lot of it. So yeah, that's fair enough. And yeah, just consistent drive. Got yourself P3 on the penalties. So yeah, good job with that. You think you'll be able to come back next week?
I don't know. If my pedals magically decide to work, then yes. But I'm
Fair
not
enough.
gonna go out and buy new ones, you know?
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. Well, if they do work, do you think Austria would be a good track for you?
Not Austria.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not
Fair
Austria.
enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Max, you got anything to ask?
Yeah, completely not related to the race. Have you ever seen the famous hit movie from 2011, Drive? Because I think that summarized pretty well your race today, I think.
I have not seen the movie, no.
I mean, yeah, I think it could be a nice comparison from your point of view of the race, especially since you just said to us that you just drive through the whole thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I don't really have many questions for this one. So hope
Yeah,
you
I'll
have
put it on my watch list. I'll look onto it. The
makes
movie.
sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope you have a more eventful race next time. I mean, not in a bad way, of course. I mean, like more fun. And yeah, see you next time.
Yeah, see.
All right. See ya. Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's not really a whole lot you can do if your pedals break. Let's hope that they magically fix themselves.
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right, and in the meantime, we will move on to our P4 finisher, which is going to be, once again, Loris. Let's get him in.
Sure.
Loris, hello.
Hello.
Are you ready for an interview?
Yes.
All right. Well, it's going to be P4 once again for you then, unless you have somehow penalties to be removed. But I think those were just track limits. So, yeah, P4. That's same as last week. How do you feel the race went for you? Because it did seem like you had some really good pace earlier on.
Yeah, it went quite well until I don't know. It just went well until lap 19/20 because from that lap onwards I had to lift and coast to save fuel. So yeah, that basically made me not being able to fight at for P1 and P2. So yeah, but at the end it would have made a difference because I got penalties already. So.
Yeah, let's see. Well, yeah, it seemed like at the start of the race you were just keeping in DRS, I suppose, to pull yourself along. You were able to build quite a big gap to the field behind you, but then I'll be honest, I don't really see. Did you just was it just falling away on pace then?
You mean at the end of the race? Or?
Yeah, like towards the end after the first stint.
Yeah, I mean, I had to lift and coast because I didn't have enough fuel. So that was one
Yeah.
of the factors, at least.
Yeah. Okay, well, I suppose not really a whole lot you could do about that. I guess were you expecting a safety car then? Was that the reason, or did you just not predict the fuel
Yeah, I
correctly?
thought plus 1.7 laps of fuel was enough, but apparently not.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's strange. Well, either way, it's still at least able to come away with a P4 and not run out of fuel. So, yeah, a good job with that, I guess. You
Yeah.
happy with the result?
Yeah, it was probably the maximum I could get. Well, no, probably P3 if I just kept it between the white lines, but apart from that, P4 is still a decent position to finish it.
All right. Well, looking ahead to next week, I've heard Austria is a track that you do enjoy. So, do you think you'll be able to do better next week? Get yourself onto the podium?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it went well last season, so I hope it goes well this season as well.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. Max, you have anything to ask?
Yeah, at the end of the race, you saw right before your eyes the top two going to the pit lane, and you were left out for a whole lap without DRS or anything. At that point, was there like a single moment where you thought you could actually go to the end without going for another stop, or you knew that it was not going to
No,
work?
I was already on 60% tire wear, so no, I
Right.
could expect 9 more laps or something.
All right, makes sense. Yeah, we were wondering this during the commentary, so it was worth to ask right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I was egging you on to stay out, but I'm quite glad that you didn't with that in mind.
yeah, indeed.
All right. Well, unless you have any more questions, Max.
No, I'm fine. That was the only thing I wanted to ask.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll let you go and say good luck with next week.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Yeah, and that reminds me as well. I think that must mean then that the puncture we saw that Hashima got on I think around lap 15, that was a real puncture. That was indeed a warning sign for the drivers. So yeah, that was actual tyre wear, and we did indeed see the famous front right puncture at Qatar. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure it should have been a front left, but for some reason it was a front right. Either way, I don't know. It's Codemasters physics, but yeah.
And this also means that Codemasters was lying to us with the strategy they showed us at the start of the race.
Yeah. Who is surprised about that?
Well, no one really.
Yeah, they lie about who's quick in the sectors. They lie about everything. It's Codemasters. All right. I'll stop complaining. I'll stop complaining, and we can move on to our next interview, which is going to be our P6 finisher, I believe, of MaxCon. Let's get him in. MaxCon, hello. You ready for an interview?
Yep.
All right. So, I don't know if it's your least favorite track, but one of your least favorite tracks is done and out of the way, and with a pretty solid result as well, getting yourself P6. How do you feel it went?
It was kind of difficult. So first, I think I qualified P11. Then during the thing, I managed to recover to P8, and during the race, I was running P7 or something. I think I overtook Leonard at the start, and after that, I could use Shadow as a DRS supplier for the first stint. After the pit stops, he got away, and then I was running P7 most of the time, and then Shadow, Mob, and Levante, I think, crashed, and I got up to P5. And yeah, I was running P5, it was pretty solid, and second to last lap, I got a puncture. I also had to save fuel, so it was only P6 in the end.
I didn't see the puncture, so do you have to come in for that then, I'm assuming, if it was a penultimate lap?
Yeah, the tire wear was really weird today. And I saw the others pit for softs, I didn't really think much of it, but then I got the puncture. Luckily, Leland already pitted, so he was 50 seconds behind, so I could come out ahead of him and finish the race like 2 seconds ahead. But Carter somehow, he was running mediums, he didn't need to stop. He said it was the tire pressure, but I'm not really convinced. I honestly don't know how he did it. Yeah, kind of unfortunate, but P6 is still better still better than what I expected to get today.
Yeah, I think just making the most of the circumstances and keeping things clean and within the track limits was probably the order of the day. And even though not the perfect strategy for you, obviously, still able to come away with some very solid points. And I think you got did you get points in the sprint race as well?
I think I got 1.
Yeah, I think you were P8 if I remember. So yeah, sounds good. So 9 points taken away from this race, and is Austria going to be a more preferable track to you next week?
Obviously, Austria is always a favorite because track is simple but good and enjoyable, and the racing is also always fun. And unlike Qatar, it actually belongs on the F1 calendar. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know where I will finish, but I guess we'll see.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, I'll wish you the best of luck. Max, you have any other questions?
Yeah, how is your left front tire doing?
It died, man.
All right.
Well,
I thought you showed up to the funeral.
I mean, I tried, but I was
Disrespectful.
committed to the race, so you know, a little bit of a show, let's say.
all right. Well, there's now just a front left tire dead and buried somewhere in the Qatari runoff. So yeah, maybe someone can go find that. Either way, Max, good job with the race, and best of luck with next week.
Yep. Thanks. Goodbye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See ya. All right. And with that, we are not yet done with the drivers. We still have actually quite a few more. Never mind. Okay, only 2 more. That's fine. Never mind. We only have 1 more because Hashima just left. All right. Well, let's get Leland in then and see what he has to say about a solid P7 finish. Leland, hello. Are you there?
I should.
All
Can you
right.
guys hear me?
Yes, I can. Are you ready for an interview?
Since I'm here, why not?
All right, fair enough. Well, I have to say that seemed like a pretty good sprint and feature race for you, all things considered. Getting, I believe it was P7 in both. So, yeah, how does that? How do you feel it went for you?
Okay, sprint race was kind of insane. I didn't expect to have the pace to stay in max con DRS, and I had such an amazing battle with him. Especially, okay, so we finished, I believe, with less of 1,000 of a second gap. So it was amazing. That P7 was very good. But yeah, in the race it went all like down. No grip. Not wasn't a matter of grip, rather than a matter of like degradation of the tire.
Mm-hmm.
Like I started with mediums, and on lap 15 they were literally screaming 80% of deg. So yeah, and plus the pace wasn't quite as much good as the sprint race. So yeah, still P7, but it's due to like retirements and stuff. So I don't really believe I decided the P7 because the pace was not there, but still good points since actually it's my first race in the calendar. So at the end of the day, sprint race was amazing. The race was kind of a disappointment, but still good points.
Yeah, I think it was. From my perspective, it seemed like a great drive from you. And I mean, the sprint race, like you say, it was an incredible spectacle to witness. Just battles through the whole field. So yeah, I'm glad you're able to have some fun with that as well and get yourself some good points from that. And then just, I guess, survive in
Was
the
it shown?
feature race. Hey?
Was it shown the last lap in the sprint race? Or
I'll be honest, there was so much happening that I don't remember, but I think we probably would have seen it because I was flicking down the order, so it should have been in there.
because after the race, I checked my POV, my registration, and black screen for 1 hour. So
Okay.
my recording's fucked up.
Damn,
That's why I'm asking.
I have no idea
Yeah.
because mainly during the sprint race there was like the battle for the lead, which was quite close. So we were
Yeah,
mainly
I can
concentrating on that
imagine.
one. But I saw in the clip channel that there was like one clip posted by, I can't remember the name now.
Maxcon.
Yeah, from Macron, because you asked due to the black
Yeah,
screen.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I'm glad
we're
that
gonna see that.
I'm glad that he gave it because it was such an amazing battle. So intense, but mostly fair. So GG's to him, and it was a very good battle.
That's a great little bit of a sportsmanship.
Indeed, yeah. I think so. good race by you overall, and I would say I think you definitely do deserve the P7 in the race, because half of the race is just making sure that you finish and keep it within the white lines, which you're able to do. So yeah, good job with that. And you think you'll be able to reserve again anytime soon?
I should be full timer driver actually.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I drive for Alpine. Yeah, that's why
Okay.
I said that it was my first race, but I
I
didn't
see.
specify as a full driver. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, what's gonna be the next race?
Austria's up next.
Okay, Austria should be fair. I not saying that it's one more of my best tracks, but surely is a nice track, and I'm gonna try to get him to the points again.
All right, sounds good. Max, you have anything else to ask?
Yeah, if you could say something in Italian to Max Cohn to congratulate him for the race, what would you say?
Okay. Giving me carta bianca, it's dangerous, like this, you know. But yeah, to say something in Italian with Maxcon, ovviamente, minchia che battaglia, mi sono sburato addosso perché mi sono cagato addosso perché eravamo vicini, veramente vicini, ma alla fine l'ho spuntata. E anche stesso, bella gara, bella gara.
Aye, perfect. I refer it to
Okay,
him.
now
I
you have
fully
a
agree.
fronted Alpha Nova.
Yep, I'll refer it to him when I see him next time. So
Okay.
great stuff.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
in that case, yeah, good job. I totally agree with whatever you just said, and good luck with next week.
I'm sure you do.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Okay, well, I have no clue what I've just signed myself up for, but oh well, that's fine.
I would translate it to you, but I don't think the stream would stay up if I say that.
All right, fair enough. Well, yeah, in that case, that is all of the drivers done, and we will move on to our, as per usual, engineer interview with Aero. Let's get him in. Aero, hello.
Oh, hello.
All right, it is your time once again for the engineering interview, and I think perhaps quite a lot more to talk about this time than we might normally have. So a very, a really nice battle in the sprint race, but then in the feature race there was a lot to unpack there. So how was that from your perspective?
Terrible. I'm gonna speak ill of Codemasters a lot, Codemasters NEI. Because there's no point even making a strategy in this, sorry for the cursing, piece of shit of a game. Because, yeah, it's not normal that this race is a two-stopper when you use hards and mediums. Like, this is just stupid. But anyway. To give a bit more context, the wear on the hards was basically the same as on the mediums, which didn't happen in any of our testing, didn't happen before in stunt competition. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a random game thing, and it's worth mentioning as well that the top times in quali were faster than in time trial.
Yeah,
So
I noticed that.
yeah, it's just yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's basically in the same vein of what your driver Elias was saying, which is that it was just a very bizarre race. The grip just wasn't making sense for people, and then the tire wear obviously made even less sense. It was just like astronomical, even compared to the feature race or the sprint race. Sorry, by the looks of things. But yeah, so unfortunate that Codemasters have done the Codemasters and made another terrible mistake. But yeah, do you think? Well, is there anything that you think you would have done differently?
I mean,
or should have done differently?
No, really. Regarding the circumstances, we did the best we could. To be honest, I mean, it was when we saw that Elias's tires on the hards were like 40%. Like we didn't even watch the wear before because we were expecting something, and we weren't even like accounting for something like this to happen. But when we caught that the wear was that high, we were kind of lost because we had no idea like what we could do at that point. So we had to come up with a solution, which we did both me, Elias, and of course Sol was also helping out. And yeah, we had to opt to go for the mediums and then see how the mediums reacted. And the mediums I think were they were wearing pretty normally, but still with like the excessive wear we had on the hards, we couldn't do as many laps as we should have on the hards, so we had to pit again. We just had to pit again, and yeah, I mean, we did the best we could strategy wise. It's at least good to know that the situation was the same for everyone or most people. But yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, it was a very bizarre race by the sounds of things from what all the drivers have said, but at least it did indeed produce a very entertaining race for us to watch, even if we clearly didn't have a clue what was happening half the time. But yeah, I think the next thing I kind of have to ask you about, you may see this one coming, but what was the situation with Hashima in the other Ferrari?
What tire wear wise?
No, I mean with the interaction he had with Tama, I suppose.
So of course, Hashim being in the same lap as Tamer and Tamer being on fresh tires, it made sense that he defended on Tamer. Of course, he didn't create any dangerous situation from what I've seen, and he's just been cut off by Tamer in that corner. From what we've seen, again, of course, I could be wrong, but from what I've observed, it's basically what happened. But I guess this type of stuff will be decided in tickets. So, yeah, I guess position changes might happen. They might not happen. We'll see. But yeah, we were pretty much set to win the race. The pace was really good. Elias did a fantastic job. It was again the battles on the last laps that we have to keep working on. But yeah, regarding Hashim, he did also like a really good job. I mean, yeah, he was just shy of the points peg position in the sprint, and then came I think in P9 in the feature race.
P8, I think.
P8. Okay, yeah, P8. So yeah, really good, and he still got the point for fastest lap, which was a great strategy call we made. So yeah, I mean, still a good race for him.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll, I guess, hand that one over to the stewards now, because obviously it's quite hard to tell from just what we've seen, and also, I know my memory's not the best, but yeah, I think there was still a lot of positives to take away from that race for you, so I would say good job on second place, and well, at least getting second place. What I will also ask about is, yeah, what was the process of trying to plan the strategy for the last few laps of the race there? Because from our point of view, it seemed like it was just basically anyone's game.
So okay, in the last laps of the race, it was just looking at what the wear was looking like, looking at our temps, looking at the pace relative to the other drivers around us, and from then we wanted to be the undercutting car, but of course, trying to get the car to finish with like decent tires. Of course, if we undercut too much, then at the end we're gonna have really bad tires. So of course we have to balance those things out, and yeah, and we ended up pitting for softs. I think end of lap 21, which was the initial plan, of course. But yeah, I think the strategy was good, but just it was yeah, I think it was just a bit of a mistake in the last few laps. Let's put it like
Yeah,
that.
and what I also want to know about is did you have like a plan for whether you should be ahead or behind, and at what times with the DRS games, I suppose, and track position?
Yes. So what I recommended both drivers was to be behind at the last corner. But for that we'd need to be close to them. And it looks like we had the advantage in the sprint race because Elias managed to be in front at the last corner and still get the win. So we knew what setup we were running. We knew more or less what wings the opponents were using. So yeah, it played out perfectly in the sprint. But then in the feature race, we were a bit too far, and at the last corner, so it wasn't really possible to catch back. In the final straight, considering as well that Tamer had better tires due to his higher wings, and yeah, that was basically a combination of both of these things that didn't allow us to get the win at the end.
All right. Well, yeah, a good in-depth analysis there. Fair enough. It was like I said, it was impossibly hard to call because even whether it was better to be behind or ahead into the final corner, because we'd seen in the feature or in the sprint race, we'd seen being ahead work, and then we'd seen also people making the overtake from being behind as well. So yeah, very very difficult one strategy wise. You I'm sure very much tested today, but I think you still did a good job to at least get home 2 solid points finishes for your cars. So yeah, looking ahead to next week, how do you think Austria will go for you?
Austria is a bit of a question mark, unlike Qatar. I mean, in Qatar, I predicted a win, and I guess we got the win in the sprint, but not in the feature where it mattered. So, yeah, I mean, we're gonna roll the dice. I mean, if EA decides to pull another one of these, then we'll have to adapt. But I think setup-wise, we should be pretty set on our options, and yeah, I think the racing there is gonna be a bit of a problem though. If things like we've seen today keep on happening, then Austria is gonna be a hell of a race.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that, and good job again on today. Max, do you have anything to ask? Sorry for leaving you for so long.
No problem, no problem. During the race, we managed to call out your strategy, I think 6 or 7 laps before you actually pulled it. So if we were to get into race strategy with other teams, would you consider us a threat?
yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, it's of course different having the an outside view on strategy and etc. It makes it a bit easier, but of course, I mean, you guys. I mean, I know Coolest has raced before. I presume you did as well before. So it's not like you are complete noobs on strategy and racing. So yeah, of course, yeah, you would be a bit of a threat for sure.
No, I don't think so. We kind of guessed and it ended up being right, but it was a fun race on the strategy point of view.
I was completely wrong, Max. It was you were the only one that got it down. I didn't believe. I was not a believer, but yeah, you were right. So
I mean, sometimes you need a bit of guesswork for strategy. So I mean,
because the main thought process was like when you did the first stop, we were like, no, that's too early to go with the mediums to the end of the race. So either they are trying to stretch those mediums to the end of the race, which is difficult, maybe possible, but really difficult, or they are actually trolling everyone else by going into the pit early with the hot tires, so they have to react and go with the pit with them. And then, since everyone went into the pit lane around the same time, they also all have to do a second stop and thus end up in the same kind of tire situation near the end of the race, hence reducing the disadvantage with tire wear and so on. So it was like a big ass guess, but it was funny to see it live.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like too much to do mental games. I mean, we like to go for the safest options and do what's best for our drivers. But yeah, I mean, if there was a race where mental games could have come in clutch, yeah, it would have been this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think you should watch back the stream to see Max's reaction to nailing it. Yeah, either way. All right. Well, great job with the race today. My condolences that it wasn't quite the P1 you were going for, but I wish you the best of luck to see if you can get back there next week.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
See ya.
See you around.
All right. See ya.
All right, and then it's going to be it for the interviews then. Nice long one to end things off. There's predictably a lot to go over with Aero. It's always good to get a very different perspective on things from strategy people. But that does mean it is now time to move on to our clips for the stream. And
I just seen. Sadly, there are not a lot of clips today. Not many of them, but good ones still. So. We'll see.
All right. Well, with that in mind, let's take a look at the first one, and that is going to be from MaxCon here, side by side with Yokata. This is on lap 1 of the sprint race, and still side by side with Yokata, and now going all the way around the outside, off the track even, then up the inside into turn 6, and actually making it work very well. So very nice move by him.
Kind of surprised he didn't get a warning for track limits, since he was a little bit over the limit on the curb. But I think it's fair that he didn't get a track limit really.
Yeah,
I mean, he had nowhere to go. So.
Exactly, it's force majeure. So, yeah, I think very nice and very opportunistic move there by him. It's a good clip to start things off with. I will move on to next one, which is, wow, from MaxCon. Who'd have guessed? And this one is quite a long one as well. We've got 1 minute and 26 seconds of the MaxCon Leland battle that we heard about in Leland's interview. So let's take a look at this. That's incredibly loud. Let me turn it down, and now let's take a look at it. So this is onto the final lap. Unfortunately, we do not have HD quality yet, even though YouTube is trying to gaslight me into believing so. So Leland has gotten past into turn 1 here on the outside. And now in towards turn 4, we're going to see MaxCon switching to the inside, looking every which way, just trying to fake Leland out, I suppose, force him into an error, but still sitting in behind. Now into turn 6, he's going to do your move, Max. And
yep, the happy move.
Doesn't quite make it work though, so has to settle in behind now, heading towards turn 7. And this is a fight for P7 as well, neither of them with any penalties, which is nice to see, probably the only 2 drivers in the field that actually applied to. And into turn 10, oh, Leland goes a bit wide there, and you can see Max going to get up the inside now, using literally all the battery. He's got 3% left at this point, side by side heading towards turn 12, has to go off the track, still doesn't get a warning, tucks right in behind, there's almost a few more pixels ahead, and he would have probably spun out the Alpine there, but manages to stick in behind, follows him through 15 nicely, and is he going to send it to the final corner? No, he fakes it. I have no clue how he's going to get the better exit. No, he does. Leland slides.
He does.
Then with the DRS, literally 0% battery left, and heading to the line, doesn't have the straight line speed, and has to settle for P8. It's a very
great
good
battle. I think, now that I think about it, I think we saw like the last few seconds of this battle, because I remember
so,
the
yeah.
AlphaTauri going like a little bit crazy on the end.
Yeah, it does ring a bell. That's the standard MaxCon move is to crash over the line. We definitely saw that today, so yeah. And it's not the last clip from him. He's actually seems to be the only driver who's actually posted any clips of today's race. So I suppose we'll move on to the next one from him, which is going to be from the feature race this time, on lap 1. And this is heading towards sector number 2. Into the hairpin we go. There were 3 wide for a second ahead of us, and we're just going to go right around the outside of the Alpine of Leland once again. So that battle just clearly picked up exactly where it left off from the sprint race, and yeah, just a nice, neat little move.
Yep, great one though.
Alright, and onto another one from MaxCon. Who'd have guessed? And this one is onto the final lap of the race. And you can see just how much slower he's going, because he's got a full 100% tyre on the front left. So I have to say, he was honestly lucky that he didn't get that puncture a bit sooner. But yeah, front left puncture at turn 2, that is very painful.
That had to happen at some point, but as we saw today, one stop, I mean, could be possible if you really save your tyre for the entirety of the race. But it's not really too worth, and you get some risk, and the risk, if you don't, I don't know how to say this in English. Let's just say it's a little bit fucked up.
Yeah, it's a bit of risk versus reward, I suppose. To be fair, that's what a lot of this race was for all of the drivers, and yeah, there's different outcomes for different people. But I think, considering how unexpected the tyre wear was, I have to say, they did pretty well to cope with it for the most part, and only end up with 2 people getting punctures. So, yeah, there's a very chaotic race, I suppose, today. That a lot of it we didn't even get to see. But yeah, that's already going to be the end of the clips. There's plenty of other clips. If you would like to go and have a look at those, then you'll have to go and join the server. But they are not race related. So, we're putting those behind a paywall or a server wall. And yeah, that is going to be then the end of what I have to say was a very, very entertaining race here today.
Very entertaining and very enjoyable, so glad to have commentated this one. And hope you all enjoyed it as well.
Likewise. Do you have any closing thoughts about the race or about next week's race?
Well, wait, actually, we got MaxCon just posted a clip.
Alright, emergency last second clip, let's take a look.
Yeah, we will not forget that one.
Yeah, lap 18 of the race. Here we go. And this is the mayhem that ensued up at turn 1, and just about avoiding Binmeister there. That was incredibly close.
Yep, great reaction. And that also managed him to get a little bit more positions, as he said during the interview. So great stuff from him.
Yeah, I have to say that the real talent there is that he was able to exceed track limits at turn 1 and not get a penalty, so good job by him. It's the most
I think
impressive
it's
thing.
mainly due to the fact that he wasn't probably going 100% on throttle, so like the game he was slowing down and was like, yeah, that's fine.
See, personally, I wouldn't trust Codemasters to have that much logic in their
games.
Yeah,
me neither. Neither, really.
Alright, well, there we go. That's, I think, the last clip done. I guess we can't actually be sure, but yeah. That is going to be it then, and we can actually wrap things up this time. So yeah, did you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I mean, next week we're going to race in Austria, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Austria, a really simple track, few corners, many straights. And, every corner is a very heavy braking zone, and as you may know, heavy braking zones are overtaking spots. And as you know, in Tier 1, heavy braking zones and overtaking spots means also chaos. So, oh boy, this is going to be quite interesting, I think.
Indeed it will. And to tide us over until then, we'll have the Tier 2 race this time tomorrow. And yeah, you can see if the Tier 2 race manages to be somehow even more chaotic, or if we continue the trend and Tier 2 is completely boring from start to finish. I don't know. Given how this one went though, I would have to say that is quite unlikely, so I would recommend tuning in to see if, to see which tyre word dice we roll this time tomorrow. But yeah, until then, we will wish you a good night, and we hope to see you here once again next week for round 6 of the Tier 1 season. Good night.
Bye-bye.